Letters Just for You. The Dompas Upgrade Title Page Letters Just for You Volume 2. The Outer World Pride D. Mpofu Copyright Page Copyright 2026 by Pride D. Mpofu. All rights reserved. No part of this book may be reproduced or transmitted in any form or by any means, electronic or mechanical, including photocopying, recording, or by any information storage and retrieval system, without permission in writing from the publisher. Some names and identifying details have been changed to protect the privacy of individuals. The Stories Are True, First Edition, 2026, printed in South Africa. Dedication for Maya and Brittany. You were the question I never knew I was asking. You are the answer I'll spend my life earning. For the ones who taught me how to be with people, my mother, who saw who sat alone, my father, who waited by the water, my brothers, who shared the mattress and the weight. And for everyone who has ever sat on a curb alone, waiting to be seen, this is yours. I was just the pen. Epigraph. The tree I am planting today will never shade me, but I hope you will sit under it. That's the point. PDA note on the Dompas, the outer world. In Stage 1, the architect, you met the internalized official, the ghost of the passbook that sits at the gate of your mind, asking for permission that no longer exists. You learn to see it, you learn to question it. You learn that you are the one who signs the book now. This stage is about what happens after you have learned to see yourself clearly. After you have met the observer, after you have started to understand who you are when no one is watching. This stage is about the world you walk into when you stop looking inward and start looking outward. About the people you meet, the circles you choose, the bridges you walk. About themeras that reflect your own wounds and the windows that let you see through to something real. The Dompas once told your grandmother where she could move, where she could work, where she could exist. Its ghost still tells you to wait for permission, to stay in your lane, to shrink so you fit. This stage is the upgrade. You are not the one asking permission. You are the one moving, you are the one seeing, you are the one choosing. Author's note. The navigation stage 1 gave you the tools. Stage 2 is about using them not on yourself but on the world. The observer learns to read rooms, not just minds. The glasses learn to see others clearly, not just yourself. The dashboard learns to read signals in the people around you. The shelf learns to hold judgment, not just desire. The letters in this book were not written to be published. They were written to one person on ordinary days after moments that mattered. A Thursday night when R62 stood between her and a test. A post made in the dark, data running out. A stranger who sent money. A friend who lectured. A mother who asked for help. A daughter who did the math and named a number I never could. When I started, I thought I was teaching. Somewhere along the way, I realized I was still learning. If you are reading this and you are not Maya or Brittany, welcome. You are now part of the conversation. These letters are for you too, not because they were written to you, but because what I have learned about the outer world is this: it does not ask permission. It just keeps moving. Read slowly. Read more than once. Write in the margins. Argue with me if you need to. These are not instructions. They are an invitation. Come sit by the water. Pride D. Mpofu, Johannesburg, 2026. Something to remember before you begin. Stage 1 taught you to see yourself. Stage 2 teaches you to see others. Stage 3 will teach you what outlasts you, but none of it matters if you don't remember this one thing: you are not alone. You never were. The people who will catch you are already waiting. The ones who will hold you are already there. The strangers who will become windows are already walking toward you. You just have to let yourself be seen. How to read this book? You do not have to read it straight through. You can start where you are. Pick the letter that speaks to where you are standing right now, but if you do read it straight through, you will notice something. The letters move through arhythm, disillusionment, pivot, integration, mastery, over and over in different keys until the rhythm becomes part of you. Take your time. Sit with the questions, write in the margins. Your action is presence, your presence is legacy. Table of contents. Title 1, the R62, Navigation to the Sandhurst Gate. 3, the friend who didn't text back. 4, Mabla. 5, the one who saw through the noise. 6, the language of belonging. 7, the one who watches. 8, the wait you can't see. 9, why people stay. 10, the call center years. 11, the night the car broke down. 12, the currency you didn't know you had. 13, the Saturday club. 14, the corner. 15, the weight that moves. 16, the woman who built me. 17, the wrong room. 18, when you outgrow a room. 19, your name travels first. 20, the architecture of survival. 21, the one everyone leans on. 22, good people. Wrong timing. 23, the mastermind. 24, push or pivot. 25, the glue. 26, raised by pressure. Title 27, the people who never leave. 28, the reinvention of fatherhood. 29, the tyranny of anything. Letter 1, the R62 Navigation Volume 2, the outer world. My love, I want to tell you about a night that changed how I see the world. Not because anything dramatic happened, because nothing dramatic happened. Just a Thursday, just a message, just a father who didn't have R62. You messaged me at 22:02. I remember the time because I stared at it for a long time before answered. Hey, are you awake? I'm always awake when you need me. Even when I don't know what to do, I need some money, really urgent. I got invited to Pinnacle College Ridgeview, and it's tomorrow. I stared at the phone. The blue light washed over my face in the dark room. Your mother was asleep. The only sound was the refrigerator humming and my own breathing, which had gone shallow. R62 one way. R124 round trip. Not a lot, not to most people, but to me that night it might as well have been a million. The voice started immediately. The old one, the one I thought I had learned to watch. You are failing. She deserves better. You can't even provide. R62. What kind of father are you? I felt it in my chest, that familiar tightness, the heat rising to my face, the weight off not enough pressing down like a hand on my sternum. I had learned in the years of writing those letters to you to watch that voice, to see it for what it was, the internalized official, the ghost of the passbook, the voice that tells you don't belong, you're not enough, you should be grateful for what little you have. I watched it, I named it, but watching did not stop it from landing. That is what no one tells you about the observer. It can see the punch coming. It can analyze the angle, the speed, the trajectory. But sometimes it still cannot get out of the way. The shame landed anyway. I typed back. That is one commodity I really don't have right now. Love, you know my situation, and this time it's even worse. I stared at the words. I didn't know how to say it softer. Didn't know how to make it hurt less. I just said it, the truth, the ugly, empty truth. I expected you to get angry, to blame me, to cry or to go silent or to say something that would make the shame heavier. You didn't. It's fine. 3 times in that conversation you said it. It's fine. Like you were protecting me from it of my own not enough. That was worse than anger. Not because you were cruel, because you were kind. And kindness, when you feel like you failed, is harder to bear than blame. I lay there after we stopped talking, staring at the ceiling. The room was dark. Your mother's breathing was slow and even. She didn't know the money was gone. She didn't know we had nothing. The voice kept talking. She deserves better. You're failing. This is who you are, the father who can't provide. I let it speak. I watched it speak. I could feel my chest getting tighter, my jaw clenching, the heat behind my eyes. The observer saw it all, and did nothing, because seeing is not the same as moving. Watching is not the same as acting. I had learned that lesson before in a call center years ago. A young man named Thabo had frozen during a furious customer's call. I had watched him freeze. I had analyzed his breathing, his posture, the flicker in his eyes. I had told myself, wait, he will find his words, do not interfere, do not make it worse. I watched for what felt like minutes. The customer kept shouting. Thabo kept shaking. Then a woman from the next cubicle, Patience, the one with the voice like warm tea, reached over, gently took the headset from Thabo and said, I hear you, let me help. The call was resolved in 2 minutes. I had watched. Patience had acted. She did not analyze, she did not wait for the perfect moment. She just reached. That night I learned that the observer can become a wall between you and your own humanity, a wall between you and the person who needs you. And now, lying in the dark, I felt that wall rising again. But then I did something I hadn't planned. I sat up, I opened my laptop. The screen was bright in the dark room. I typed a post. No tasking for money, just telling the truth, just letting the world know this is what it looks like. A father trying, a daughter believing. R62 standing between hair and a chance. I hit post. The data bar flickered red, almost empty. The message would send then hang, send then hang. Like the network knew I didn't have enough. I didn't have enough. That was the whole story, but I hit post anyway. The next morning the world answered, hundreds of comments. Maybe more, I didn't count, I don't count. Social media is noise mostly, and I've learned not to let noise get in my head, but I looked, because you always look. Because somewhere underneath the not caring, there's a part of you that still wants to be seen. Some people used my life as a mirror for their own wounds. They projected their pain onto him and called it truth. A man is only a man when he has money. The mom's normally no long before, the dad is normally a last-minute thought. Being a mom, you don't have an option to say no. I read them. And for a moment I let them in. I let their projections become my shame. I thought, maybe they're right, maybe I am failing, maybe you do deserve better, but the observer was still there. Quiet, tired, but still there, it said. Their words are not yours, their fear is not yours. Let them talk. I put the phone down. I didn't respond, I didn't defend, I just let the silence be there. Then an old friend called. Family friend, known them for years. I answered because I thought they were checking on me. On us, on you, they weren't. They didn't ask how I was. They didn't ask about you. They didn't ask what happened next. They lectured. You shouldn't post things like that. Take it down. People will analyze it wrong. They'll think you're relying on the woman. They'll think you're not providing. I listened. I didn't explain. I wasn't in the mood to tell the whole story. The curriculum, Theshak, the 5 years, the daughter who believes. They wouldn't have understood anyway. Take it down, they said again. Before people start talking. The lecture, they didn't offer anything. Not help, not money. Not even a suggestion that might actually solve something. Just judgment, just advice. Just the weight of someone else's idea of how I should be. I didn't take the post down, and then there were the others. And then there was Takudzwa. I don't know him. Still don't. We're not friends on Facebook. His message came through as blocked. I had to reply for us to even connect. Haita, how much is the transport money for your child to go to the invitation? No preamble. No judgment. No story. Just a question. I gave him my number. Send your number. Let me yell at you. I sent it. 68,186, 3,271. I literally can't believe you would do that for me. Thank you very much, my brother. Then the notification. R300, from Kapituk. Reference number C3235224676. Expiry 16 April 2026. I sat there, staring at my phone, and I felt something I hadn't felt in days. Not gratitude, exactly. Not relief, something stranger. I felt seen, not by the money, by the question, by the way he didn't perform, didn't lecture, didn't macate about himself. He just acted. And in acting, he became a window. I could see through him to something I'd forgotten was still there. The possibility that I wasn't alone, that money is still here, safe. Ready for the next time you need something and I don't have it, ready for the next emergency. Another "don't you have some money for me" moment, but that's not really why I've kept it. I've kept it because every time I look at it, I remember. I remember that in a world full of mirrors, there are still windows. I remember that a stranger saw me, really saw me, and chose to act. I remember that I am not alone, and neither are you, with love, Dad. Letter 2, the Sandhurst Gate, Volume 2. The outer world, my love. There was a gate I used to pass every morning. Iron bars, tall, painted black but rusting at the hinges. The kind of gate that says you are not entering before you even reach for the handle. The sound it made when it opened was a low, tired groan, metal scraping metal. The same sound day after day, never changing. Like the gate was tired of being a gate. Sandhurst, the suburb where your Uncle Melvin lived. I didn't live there. I lived in a flat in Olifantsfontein, 30 kilometers south, where the streets here narrower and the dust never quite settles. But every morning I drove up to that gate, parked my car on the side of the road and walked through to the house where Melvin was staying. I didn't belong there. The gate knew it. The guard at the entrance knew it. I could see it in high size, that flick of assessment, the quick calculation of whether I was a threat or a guest. His uniform was blue, faded at the elbows, buttoned to the top despite the heat. I could smell the starch. The same smell as my grandfather's work clothes, the ones he wore to the factory, the ones my mother washed by hand in a plastic basin. The guard never said anything. He just watched. His eyes were tired, not the tired of a long shift. The tired of a man who had been watching gates for years, who had learned to read people by the way they walked, by the way they avoided his gaze, by the way they clutched their bags or straightened their spines. I watched him back. That's what I do. I watch. He was maybe 50. His hands hung at his sides, thick-knuckled, the kind of hands that had been holding things for a long time. A gate, a key, a life that didn't belong to him. I wondered where he lived, what his kitchen looked like. Whether his children called him at night, whether he ever walked through a gate that opened for him, I never asked. I just walked past, nodded, and entered the house that was not mine. Inside, the floors were marble. Cold, the kind of cold that seeps through your shoes. The walls were white, the furniture was beige, everything was clean in a way that felt sterile. No dust, no clutter, no signs of the ordinary mess of living. Your Uncle Melvin would be in the kitchen, making coffee. The smell of fresh grounds filled the space, dark, rich, nothing like the instant coffee we drank at home. He always used a ceramic mug, blue chipped on the rim. The same mug every day. His hands were steady, his movements precise. He would pour 2 mugs, push one toward me, and say nothing for a long time. That was his gift. The silence, the space he created by not filling it. I would sit across from him, holding the warm mug, the heat seeping into my palms, and he would feel the weight of the morning lifting. Just a little, just enough, but then I would have to leave, and the gate would be there again. Iron bars, rust, the guard with the tired eyes, and I would feel it again. The not belonging, there is a word for what that gate was. Not just a gate, a boundary, a line drawn before it was born, the Group Areas Act, the passbook, the Bantustan system. The maps they drew with red pencils, dividing people by race, by language, by location. The gate at Sandhurst was not the first gate. It was just the most visible one. My grandmother knew other gates. The door of her house in District 6 before the trucks came. The door of the house she was moved to in Mitchell's Plain, where the soil was thin Andry and the tomatoes never grew. The door of the hospital room where she fought cancer, where she smiled through pain, where she saw my sister start university before she let go. I remember her kitchen. The smell of curry leaves and cumin, the hiss of something frying, the way she would stir the pot with a wooden spoon that was older than me. The sound of her humming, a hymn, always a hymn, while she worked. She never spoke about the gates. She just kept walking through them. I think about her when I pass that gate at Sandhurst. About her hands, thin but strong, gripping the handle of a door that was never fully hers. About her silence, which was not weakness but wisdom. About her smile, which was not denial but defiance. She wore her scratches differently. She carried the weight without letting it crush her. One afternoon, after I had been passing that gate for months, the guard spoke. "You're the brother," he said, not a question, a statement. I nodded. He looked at me for a long moment. His eyes were still tired, but something else was there too, recognition, not of me but of something I carried. "Sister lives in Mamelodi," he said. "She's a nurse, she works double shifts, she has 3 children, she never complains." I didn't know what to say, so I said nothing. She tells me about the gates she has to pass. The hospital gate, the bank gate, the gate to her own kitchen, which she rents, which is never fully hers. He paused. His hand rested on the iron bar. The rust flaked under his fingers. She says the gate is not the problem. The problem is when you start believing the gate was built for you. He nodded once, then turned back to the street. The conversation was over. I walked into the house. The marble floors were still cold. Melvin's coffee was still warm, but something had shifted. The gate was still there, the rust was still there. The not belonging was still there, but I had seen the guard differently. Not as a gatekeeper, as a window. That is what the outer world does, my love. It puts gates in front of you. Some are iron, some are marble, some are made of words. You don't belong here, you're not qualified, we're nothing, try again next year. You will spend your life walking toward gates. Some will open, some will not. Some will have guards with tired eyes who recognize something in you and nod. The trick is not to stop at the gate. The trick is to keep walking and to remember that every gate was built by someone, usually someone who never had top-ass through it. Your grandmother knew this. She walked through gates that were never meant for her. She carried her silence like a key. She smiled because smiling was a form of refusal. Her kitchen smelled of curry and hope. Her hands were never still. The guard at Sandhurst knew this too. He stood at the gate, but he did not believe the gate was his. I am still learning. I still feel the heat in my face when I pass a gate that tells me I don't belong. The observer still watches. The shame still lands. But I keep walking, because the gate is not the end. The gate is just the place where you decide whether to turn back or keep going. One day I drove up to the gate and the guard was gone. A new man stood there. Younger, stiffer, he didn't nod. He didn't speak. I walked past anyway. The iron bars were still rusting. The paint was still peeling. The gate was still closed, but I had stopped believing it was built for me. With love, Dad, letter 3. The friend WHO didn't text back, volume 2. The outer world, my love, you came home from school quiet one day. Not the normal quiet, not the tired quiet, the heavy quiet, the kind that sits in your chest and refuses to move. I was in the kitchen, stirring a pot of something when you walked past without a word. The floorboards creaked under your feet. You went straight to your room. The door clicked shut, not a slam, just a click. The sound of someone closing the world out. I left you alone. That's what I've learned to do, not because I don't care. Because I've learned that sometimes the bravest thing you can give someone is space, but I listened. The house was still. The kettle was cooling. The only sound was the faint buzz off the refrigerator and my own breathing, which had gone shallow. An hour later you came out. You stood in the kitchen doorway, your arms crossed, your eyes on the floor, your shoulders were hunched. You looked smaller than you had that morning. She's mad at me, you said. I don't know what I did. I knew who you meant, your friend, the one who always texted back within minutes. Theonere, who laughed at your jokes. The one who sat next to you in class. She hadn't texted back all day. I asked, did you say something? No. Something happened at school? No. Anyone else hear anything? No. I poured you a cup of tea. The kettle was still warm. The steam rose between us, curling toward the ceiling. You wrapped your hands around the mug like it was the only warm thing left in the world. Your knuckles were white. Maybe her phone died, I said. You looked up at me. Your eyes were red, not from crying, from holding it in. The way tears look when you've been swallowing them for hours. Maybe she fell asleep early, I said. You shook your head. Your jaw tightened. Maybe she's waiting to talk in person. You put the mug down. The ceramic clinked against the counter. But sometimes it's not something else. Sometimes people just don't like you. I didn't have an answer. I sat there in the kitchen and I watched you carry the weight of Thatstry, the story the narrator had already written. The story that said, I did something wrong, she's punishing me with silence, I must have messed up, it's my fault, I wanted to fix it. I wanted to tell you the right thing, the thing that would make it lighter. Beauty, you were right, sometimes the story is true. I couldn't tell you which one this was, I didn't know, so I said nothing. I just sat there and we drank the tea. The steam thinned, the mug cooled, the silence stretched. The next morning you came downstairs with your phone in your hand. Your face was different. Not happy exactly, relieved. The way your shoulders dropped when you realized it wasn't yours to carry. Her phone died, you said. She fell asleep. She texted me at 5 a.m. You showed me the message. Hey, sorry, my phone died. UK, I smiled. Not because I was right, because you had held the question. You had not let the story close around you like a trap. See, I know, you said. But you didn't know that. You just said maybe. That's the thing about the outer world, my love. It's full of stories we write before we have facts. The narrator doesn't wait for evidence. It starts building the case the moment the silence arrives. She's mad at me. He doesn't like me. They're all laughing at me. I don't belong here. The evidence doesn't matter. The case is already closed. I learned this the hard way. Not from you, from myself. It was a time years ago when I didn't hear from a friend for a week. A week of silence, no calls, no texts, no replies. I told myself a story. He's angry about something I said. He's cutting me out. He never really liked me. I was just convenient. I replayed every conversation, every joke, every moment of tension. I found evidence everywhere. The time he didn't laugh at my joke, the time he left early, the time he looked at his phone while I was talking. I built a wall. Not between him and me, between me and him. I stopped reaching out. I told myself I was respecting his space, but I was really protecting myself from the story I had already decided was true. When he finally called, he said, sorry, I've been sick, flu, couldn't get out of bed. My phone died twice. I laughed, a hollow laugh, because I had spent a week suffering from a movie I wrote myself. He didn't know, he never knew. The wall was mine, the story was mine, the cost was mine to carry. That's what the narrator does. It doesn't need evidence, it needs a pause, a silence, a gap, and then it fills the gap with the worst possible story. You already know the observer from volume 1. Here it is in the wild, because the brain is not designed for happiness. It is designed for survival, and survival in the ancient world meant assuming the worst. That rustle in the grass is a lion, not the wind. That silence from the tribe means you've been cast out, not that they're busy. The brain would rather be wrong and safe than right and dead. But we don't live in the savannah anymore. We live in a world of phones and group chats and blue ticks and delivered receipts. And the brain still runs the old software. It sees a message that isn't answered and it screams, danger. URBINGIJCTED. Defend yourself, and we do. We build walls, we write stories. We suffer for hours, days, weeks from movies we made up. I see you doing this less and less. That's the gift of the observer, not that it stops the story from forming, but that it catches it. When you came to me in the kitchen that night, you weren't telling me the story. You were asking me to check it. Is this true? Do I actually know? That's the difference between being trapped by the narrator and learning to question it, the friend who didn't text back. Her phone died, she fell asleep. She texted at 5 a.m. You didn't know that when you stood in the kitchen doorway, but you also didn't assume thirst. You held the weight of the question. What if it's not what I think? That's the pause, that's the space. That's the gap where freedom lives. The outer world is full of silences. Messages that go unanswered, calls that aren't returned, plans that fall through, people who drift. Some of those silences mean something, some of them mean nothing. Most of them mean something in between. The work is not to stop the stories. The work is to notice that you are telling them. And then to ask, what do I actually know? Not what do I fear, not what do I assume, not what has happened before. What do I actually know? That night after you showed me the message, you put your phone down. You didn't say I told you so. You didn't make me feel small for suggesting the other possibilities. You just drank your tea. I watched you. The steam had long since disappeared. The mug was empty. Your shoulders were back where they belonged, and I thought, she's learning, slowly, painfully, but she's learning. The friend who didn't text back, it wasn't about her. It was about the story you almost believed, and the pause that saved you, but the pause doesn't always save you. Sometimes the story is true. Sometimes people do stop liking you. Sometimes the silence is exactly what you fear. That's the part I cannot fix. That's the part you will have to carry. With love, Dad. Letter 4, Mabla Volume 2, The Outer World. My love, in the middle of all that noise, the comments, the judgments, the stranger who sent money, the friend who lectured, there was a moment I almost missed. A lady named Mabla messaged me, not a friend, not a follower, just someone who saw my post and thought, this man has information I need. Her profile picture was a woman in a blue uniform, smiling, standing outside a building it didn't recognize. Her name was unfamiliar. Her face was unfamiliar. She lived somewhere I had never been, but she asked, hi Mr. Mpofu. I saw your post regarding your child getting an invite at Pinnacle Ridgeway. You would appreciate to know how she got the invite, as I would love to apply for my child for grade 8 for 2027. I read it twice. The blue light of my phone felt warm against my palm. The room was quiet. Your mother was still asleep. The curtains were still drawn. Someone was asking me for help. In the middle of all the noise, someone saw me as someone who might have an answer. I told her what I knew. The top 10%, the school websites, JEP Girls, St. Andrews. Check the ones in your area. I typed it fast, the way you type when you're afraid the network will cut out again. My thumb moved across the screen. The words came out plain. No polish, no performance. Thank you so much, this helped a lot. I will check. All the best for your daughter. That was it. No drama, no debt, just information flowing between two parents trying to figure it out. I put the phone down. The screen went dark. The room was still. I helped someone. In the middle of my own not enough, I helped someone. I almost missed how that felt, because the voice was still there. The old one, the one that said, you have nothing to give. You are the one who needs help. You are the one who should be receiving, not giving. But Mabla didn't see me as a recipient. She saw me as a source. She didn't know about the R62. She didn't know about the curriculum. She didn't know about the 5 years in the shack. She just knew I had information and she needed it. And I gave it. That's the thing about the outer world, my love. It doesn't care about your scorecard. It doesn't ask whether you have enough. It just asks, do you have something I need? And sometimes, even when you feel empty, you do. I thought about Mabla for days, not because she was special, because she was ordinary. A mother, a stranger, a message in the middle of the night. She didn't ask for money, she didn't ask for sympathy. She didn't ask me to perform my suffering so she could feel better about helping. She asked for information. And then she said thank you. And then she disappeared. That's the power of weak ties, my love. The people you do know. The strangers hope come windows. The ones who ask a question and then move on. Your close circle holds you. But the weak ties move you. They have access to worlds you don't. They know things you don't. They see doors you haven't noticed. Mabla didn't change my life. She didn't send money. She didn't solve my problems. Butch reminded me of something I had forgotten. I am not just the one who needs. I am also the one who gives. There was a woman in the call center years ago. Her name was Patience. She had a voice like warm tea. I told you about her once. She was the one who reached over and took the headset from Thabo when he froze. She was the one who taught me that your voice is not a mask, it's a door. She also taught me something else. Something I didn't understand until Mabla. You think helping is about having plenty, she said. It's not, it's about paying attention. I didn't understand. I thought helping meant having extra. Extra money, extra time, extra energy. Extra of something, she shook her head. The woman who holds the door for you is not rich, she just noticed you were coming. Mabula noticed, she didn't have much. Neither did I, but she noticed that I had information and she asked for it. That was her version of holding the door. You will have your own Mabula moments, my love. Times when someone needs something you have, not money, not things, just you, your attention, your knowledge, your willingness to help. In those moments you will be tempted to think it's not enough, to compare yourself to people who can give more, to feel small because you're not providing in the way the world measures. Don't fall for that. A piece of information at the right time can change everything. A question answered, a door pointed to, a moment of genuine attention. That's not small. That's a window. The funny thing is, Mabula helped me as much as I helped her. She reminded me that I am not just the one who needs. I am also the one who gives. Even in the middle of my own chaos, I have something to offer. That reminder was its own kind of armor. I don't know if you'll ever meet Mabula. Probably not. Our paths crossed for 5 minutes in the middle of 1,000 comments and then they uncrossed. That's how it works with windows. They appear, they let you see through, and then they're gone. But I remember her. I remember how it felt to help. I remember that in the middle of being seen by a stranger, I also got to be the one who saw someone else. That's the thing about the outer world. It's not just about what you receive, it's about what you give. It's not just about the windows that appear for you. It's about the windows you become for others. Mabula needed direction. I had it. I gave it. With Love, Dad, Letter 5. The Weight That Moves, Volume 2. The Outer World, my love. I want to tell you about the R30 again. Not the night your mother held it in the kitchen. A different R30, the one that moved. After I lost my job, the money was tight. Not tight like a belt, tight like a fist around your chest. Every rand had a name, every name had a purpose. There was no room for anything extra, but one Saturday I walked past the corner of Hope and Main. Auntie Grace was packing up her coat to stand. The sun was low. The street was quiet. She was lifting the cooler box into the back of a beat-up hatchback, her movements slow, her back curved. I stopped. Let me help. She looked at me. Recognized me from the time I bought the coater. You don't have to. I know. I lifted the cooler box. It wasn't heavy, not really, but it was awkward and her hands way tired. I carried it to the car. She opened the boot. I placed it inside. She thanked me. Then she reached into her apron pocket and pulled out R30. For you. I looked at the note. The paper was soft, folded twice. Her thumb was still on it, pressing it into my palm. I thought of the R30 your mother had held. The choice, the weight, the not enough, and I thought, this is the same R30, just moving. I shook my head. Keep it, you need it more than I do. She looked at me for a long moment. Her eyes were tired, but something else was there too, recognition. You're right, she said. I do, but that's not why I'm giving it. She put the R30 back in her apron, then she said something I never forgot. The money moves, that's the point. It's not about who has it, it's about whether it stops. I walked away from that corner with nothing in my pocket but a question. What does it mean for money to stop? I thought about the Stockwell women. The tin, the rotation, the way the money never stayed in one place for long. It moved from hand to hand, from household to household, from need to need. I thought about the corner businesses. The way Auntie Grace bought bread from the Spaza shop, and Precious bought cool drink from the Spaza shop, and Uncle Solly sent his customers to Auntie Grace. The money didn't leave the corner, it just moved around it. I thought about the banks, the way they take your money and keep it, the way they lend it back to you with interest. The way the money stops moving for you and starts moving for them, that's the trap, not poverty, stagnation. When money stops, the people stop too. The street gets quiet, the corner fades, the doors close, but when money moves, even R30, even in small circles, the street breathes. I learned this from Gogo Maria at the Stockwell. She didn't use the word circulation. She used the word breathing. The money breathes, she said. It goes in, it goes out. If it stops, the lungs collapse. She was talking about the Stockwell, but she was also talking about the street, the corner, the whole neighborhood. I saw it happen once. A Spaza shop closed, not because the owners were bad, because the money stopped. The customers went to the big shop 2 kilometers away. The money left their corner, and one by one, the other businesses felt it. Auntie Grace had fewer customers. Uncle Solly had fewer cars. Precious had fewer heads to braid. The corner didn't die, but it coughed. That's the weight that moves, not the money itself, the trust, the expectation. The knowledge that if you give, you will receive, not from the same person, maybe. Not tomorrow, maybe, but somewhere, sometime from someone. That's social capital. That's the Stockwell. That's the corner, the people who hoard their money. Who keep it still, who never let it breathe. They are not wealthy. They are frozen, the people who let it move, who trust it to return, who circulate it through the hands of their neighbors. They are not poor. They are current. I think about that R30 sometimes. The one Auntie Grace tried to give me. I didn't take it, but I didn't refuse it either. I just let it stay in her apron, where it could move again. Maybe she gave it to someone else that week. Maybe she used it to buy bread from the Spaza shop. Maybe the Spaza shop owner used it to buy airtime, and the airtime vendor used it to buy vegetables, and the vegetable seller used it to buy a coater from Auntie Grace, the same R30. Circling, breathing, that's not poverty. That's a different kind of wealth. The world will tell you that wealth is having more. More money, more things, more space between you and the people who need help. That's a lie. Wealth is circulation. Wealth is trust. Wealth is the knowledge that the money will move, and when it does, it will come back to you in a different form, not as the same R30, as something better, as a door held open, as a hand offered, as a corner that still breathes, with Love Dad Letter 6, The One Who Saw Through the Noise Volume 2, The Outer World My Love. There was a boardroom in Margate, marble floors, glass tables, suits that cost more than my monthly salary. Art on the walls that probably cost more than my car. I was the youngest person in the room by a decade. Everyone else had credentials I couldn't pronounce, let alone claim. The meeting was about something important. I don't remember what. I remember the room, the cold of the marble seeping through my shoes, the weight of the silence before anyone spoke, the way the light caught the water glasses, throwing small rainbows across the table. I sat near the end, close to the window. My heart was pounding. My palms were sweating. The voice in my head was screaming, "You don't belong here. They're going to figure it out any second. Get out before they notice." I felt my shoulders rising toward my ears. My jaw clenched. The heat crept up the back of my neck. The observer saw it all. It named the voice. It knew the voice was not the truth. But the observer did not stop the shame from landing. Around the table, people talked. They debated. They used words I had to look up later. They gestured with pens and pointed at slides and interrupted each other with the easy confidence of people who had always been in rooms like this. I said nothing. Not because I had nothing to say. Because I was afraid that when I opened my mouth, the wrong thing would come out. Or worse, nothing would come out. Just air. Just the sound of a man who didn't belong. I watched. That's what I do. I watched the man at the head of the table. He had silver hair and a watch that probably cost more than my car. He spoke slowly, as if everyone should be grateful for every word. I watched the woman across from me. She took notes. Her pen moved across the page in neat, precise lines. She never looked up. She never spoke. I watched the consultant near the door. He leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, nodding everything. He was there to agree, not to contribute. And then I watched Mrs. Delamini. She sat at the far end of the table near the window where the light fell across her folded hands. She didn't lean forward. She didn't gesture. She didn't interrupt. She just watched. The way my father watched the water, the way I learned to watch. Her hands were still, not stiff, just still. The kind of stillness that comes from knowing you don't have to perform. When she spoke, something happened. The room got quiet. Not because she was loud. She wasn't. Her voice was quiet, but it carried. It carried because she didn't waste it. She said 3 sentences. Maybe 4, I don't remember the words now. I remember few. When she finished, the room was silent for a moment. Not the uncomfortable silence of people waiting to speak. The silence of people who had heard something true, then someone else talked and the noise returned. But for that moment there was something else, something that held. After the meeting, when the room had emptied and the voices had faded, she pulled me aside. She stood by the window. The light was behind her so I couldn't see her face clearly. Just the silhouette. Her hands were still folded. "You don't talk much," she said. I shook my head. "Not in rooms like that." She smiled. Not the smile of someone performing warmth, the smile of someone who saw something and recognized it. "Good," she said. "The people who talk the most usually have the least to say. The ones who watch, they're the ones I trust to actually understand what happened in there." She didn't wait for me to respond. She just nodded once and walked away. I stood there in the empty boardroom, the marble cold under my feet, the afternoon light slanted through the blinds, and I felt something shift. She saw me. Not the suit that didn't fit. Not the title I didn't have. Not the silence that felt like fear. She saw the watching. She saw the attention. She saw the thing I had been carrying without knowing it was valuable. That's the thing about the outer world, my love. Most people are looking for the loud ones, the ones who speak first, speak often, make sure they're seen. They confuse noise with confidence, volume with value, but the quiet ones, the ones who watch, they're the ones who see what's actually happening. They feel the room before they enter it. They know who's really holding things together, who's struggling, who's performing, who's real. The loud ones fail eventually. They always do. And when they do, it's the watchers who saw it coming. Who knew the cracks were there, who could have warned everyone if anyone had thought to ask, but no one asks the quiet ones. Not usually, Mrs. Delamini asked. I carried her words for years. Not because she praised me, because she saw me. In a room full of people trying to be seen, she noticed the one who wasn't trying. That's the difference between a mirror and a window. A mirror reflects what's already there, your fear, your shame, your desperate need to be seen. A window lets you see through. Through someone else's stillness, you see your own worth. Mrs. Delamini was a window, the friend who lectured me after the R62 post. They were a mirror. Their words, "People will think you're relying on the woman, they'll think you're not providing," those weren't about me. They were about them, their own fear, their own shame, their own need to control how the world saw them. They poured their fear onto me and called it advice. Mrs. Delamini poured nothing, she just saw, and in her seeing, she gave me something I didn't know I needed. Permission to be quiet, permission to watch, permission to trust that my silence was no emptiness but attention. I think about her sometimes, wondering if she knew what she did. Wondering if she ever thought about the young man in the corner, the one who didn't speak, the one she pulled aside for 3 sentences. She probably doesn't remember. To her it was just a moment. A nod, a few words. To me, it was a door. That's how windows work. They don't know they're letting light through. They just stand there still and the light passes. You will be a window for someone someday. You already have been, I think, the way you listened to your friend who was struggling. The way you saw something in me that I couldn't see. The way you did the math and named a number I never could. You didn't know you were being a window. You were just being you, that's enough. With Love Dad Letter 7, The Language of Belonging Volume 2, The Outer World My Love. There was a time in my 20s when I travelled for work, all over the country. Mafeking, Tyranny, Sabasa, Rustenburg, places I'd never been, with names I couldn't pronounce, in provinces where my Ndebele was a foreign language. I would arrive on a Sunday afternoon, just enough time to find my guest house, walk the streets, learn the shape of the place before the work began. The next morning I would have toffened my way to a meeting, a government department, a school, a community hall, without GPS, without knowing anyone, without speaking the language. I learned something in those years. Something no book taught me. The moment you try to speak their language, even badly, even wrong, the whole room shifts. I remember my first night in Mafeking. I was young, maybe 23. The sun had just set and the streets were turning gold. I walked into a small shop to buy something for supper, a corner shop, the kind with a bright fluorescent light and a metal counter and the smell of bread and paraffin. The woman behind the counter spoke to me in Setswana. Her voice was soft, tired. I understood nothing. I just stood there, my hands in my pockets, feeling stupid. She saw my face and switched to English. Yes, what you want, but I heard it. The shift, the way her shoulders relaxed when she realized she didn't have topiform understanding. The way her eyes lost that guarded look. Jumela, I said, the only word I knew. She looked at me. Then she smiled, not a polite smile, a real one. Jumela RRA, I said it again, wrong, the tone was off. The click was missing. She laughed, not at me, with me, and then she taught me how to say it properly. Her hand in the counter, her fingers tapping the rhythm. Jumela RRA, I practiced it in my head all the way back to the guest house. The words felt strange in Mymouth. Foreign. But not unwelcome. The next morning I walked into the meeting. There were 12 people around the table, all Setswana speakers. The man chairing the meeting looked at me, the outsider, the one with the Ndebele surname and the Joburg clothes. Before he could speak, I said, Jumela RRA. The room shifted. Not because I spoke well, I didn't, because I tried. Because I showed up with my hands open, not my mouth. Because I let myself be the one who didn't know so that Somione could be the one who taught. The meeting went differently after that. They asked me where I was from. They wanted to know about my family. They offered me tea and called me Ngwana, child, like I belonged to them now. I didn't earn that. I didn't deserve it. I just tried. It happened again in Tyranny, a small town in Limpopo surrounded by avocado trees and banana plantations. I was there for 2 weeks working with a team from the local hospital. The language there was Zitsonga. I knew nothing, not a single word. The first few days were hard. People were polite, but there was a distance. I was the outsider, the one who spoke Zulu, the one from Johannesburg. They were kind, but I wasn't theirs. On the 4th day, I asked one of the nurses to teach me a word. How do you say thank you? Ndza Kensa. I practiced it under my breath for an hour. Ndza Kensa, Ndza Kensa. The sounds were thick in my mouth. I kept getting the rhythm wrong. That evening, when she brought me the meal I'd ordered, I said it. Ndza Kensa. Her face lit up, like I'd given her something she didn't know she was waiting for. She called her colleague over. Listen to this, he's learning. They stood there, 2 women in blue scrubs, laughing and clapping, teaching me the words for please and good morning and how are you. By the end of the week they were calling me Makwahu, our sibling. I hadn't earned that, I hadn't done anything. I just tried. In Sabasa it was Venda, the most difficult language I'd ever encountered. The clicks, the tones, the way the words seemed to bend in the middle. I was there for 3 weeks, long enough to feel the weight of not belonging. Long enough to understand how isolating it is to be the one who can't speak, who can't understand, who needs everyone to shift for you. One evening I was walking to the shop to buy airtime. A group of young men were sitting on a wall talking loudly, laughing. They saw me and went quiet. I kept walking, but something made me stop. The light was fading, the street was dust, fuel was low and cracked. I turned back. How do you say hello? They looked at each other. One of them, the youngest, maybe 18, said, Endar, Endar. I repeated. He smiled. No viewer Hani. They spent the next 10 minutes teaching me how to greet, how to ask how someone is, how to say I am fine. They taught me the word Kotsi, father, and MME, mother. They taught me the word for friend, Kanani. When I said it, Kanani, they all laughed and clapped and called me by that name for theyest of my stay. They would shout when they saw me, how are you, our friend? I wasn't their friend, not really. I was a stranger from Johannesburg who was leaving in 3 weeks, but I tried. And trying in a language that is not yours is a kind of belonging. This is what they showed me. Connection comes before navigation. You can't move through a place until you let the place move through you. You can't find your way until you let people show you. You can't belong until you are willing to be a beginner, to be wrong, to sound foolish, to try. The world will tell you that belonging is about fitting in, about speaking correctly, about knowing the rules before you enter the room, but that's not how it works. Belonging is about showing up with your hands open, about letting someone teach you Thuard for thank you, about being willing to be the one who does know so that someone can be the one who teaches. In Mafeking, they taught me to say Jumela. In Tyranny, they taught me to say Ndza Kensa. In Sabasa, they taught me to say Kanani. And in every place what I learned was this: people want to be seen. They want to be known. They want to be the ones who know something you don't. And when you let them teach you, you give them a gift. That's the language of belonging, not fluency. Willingness. You'll walk into rooms where you don't know the language. Schools where the culture is foreign. Jobs where the rules are unspoken. Cities where the streets are unfamiliar. In those rooms, you'll be tempted to stay quiet, to wait until you know enough to speak, to perform confidence until you feel it. Don't let yourself be the one who doesn't know. Ask the question, try the word, let someone teach you. It's not weakness. It's the first step of belonging. It's the moment the room shifts. It's the word Kanani, friend, spoken in a language you didn't know 3 weeks ago. The world is waiting for you to try. With Love Dad Letter 8, Why People Stay Volume 2, The Outer World My Love, I've been thinking about something I don't fully understand. Something I've never been able to name. People stay around me. I don't know why. I've never known. It's not because I'm the smartest. Melvin has that title. It's not because I'm the most charismatic. Donovan could out-charm anyone. It's not because I have money or status or anything the world measures. But people stay, children attached to me like I'm theirs. Brittany, even though she's not my blood. Akeisha, who spent her first years in my arms while Melvin traveled for work. Your cousins, your friends, they gravitate toward me, trust me, feel safe with me, teams stabilize around me. In the warehouse, in the call center, in the business, in every group I've ever been part of, somehow I become the center. Not because I try, because people put me there, and I've never understood it. There was a moment years ago that taught me something. We were in the middle of a difficult stretch with the business. Things weren't falling apart, but they were tense, everyone on edge. Melvin overthinking every decision. Donovan frustrated that things weren't moving faster. Employees nervous, watching, waiting to see which way things would go. I didn't do anything special. I just kept showing up, kept listening, kept being the same person I'd always been. Kept making coffee, asking questions, noticing who needed what. One day, one of our employees, a woman named Nomusa, the same one who warned me about the empty well, pulled me aside. You know why I'm still here? She asked. I shook my head. Because of you, not the business, not the money. You, when I'm around you, I feel everything going to be okay. I don't know how to explain it. I just feel safe. I didn't know what to say. I still don't, but I've carried her words ever since. Your grandmother had this too. People remember her smile. At her funeral, the pastor said it. If anybody remembers Sue, it was with a smile. The hospital room her last day was packed, not because we couldn't get there, but because so many others had to say goodbye. She didn't do anything special. She just loved, showed up, made people feel seen. Made them feel like they mattered, made them feel safe, and they stayed. They always stayed. I remember one Sunday afternoon at her house. The kitchen was hot. The pots were hissing. She was stirring something on the stove, a wooden spoon in her hand, a hymn on her lips. The door was open. People came and went without knocking. A neighbor I didn't know sat at the table. He was crying. His wife had left him. He didn't know where to go. My mother didn't ask questions. She just put a plate in front of him. Rice and stew. Then she sat down across from him and waited. He talked. She listened. He ate. She refilled his plate. He stayed for 3 hours. When he left, he wasn't crying anymore. She never mentioned it again. Not once. That was her way. She didn't keep score. She didn't tell stories about her generosity. She just held the space. And people stayed. My father had it in his own way, a rural boy from the old days before technology. He knew how to hunt, how to read the veldt, how to wait. When he started working and could afford it, he bought the equipment, pellet guns for bird hunting, rods and reels for fishing. And then he'd call us brothers together and take us to Harties, Hardebeesput Dam in the northwest. He'd drive over 800 kilometers to get us there, 800 kilometers. One way 3 or 4 days camping, no one around for miles. He'd buy supplies enough for days. A few beverages, as he called them, and when we were settled. When the fire was burning and the water was dark, he'd say the words I'll never forget. Enjoy your drinks, boys, tell me your problems. There's no one here to fight you. If you want to fight, we can fight. That was him, not afraid of our anger, not hiding from our storms, just making space, saying, bring it all. I'm still here. We'd fish through the night. My brothers and me. Your Uncle Sifo, we called him Sledge. Your Uncle Rasta. He was Dad's favorite, the one who made him laugh. Me watching, learning, waiting my turn to speak. Your Uncle Dion, who we started leaving behind because he was too young. And I remembered that feeling because they'd left me behind too once when I was in primary school and I'd cried. The trip started when I was about 13 or 14. High school. They went on until I was 25. More than a decade of nights by that water. In the late hours, he'd make his coffee with whiskey, his favorite. I started liking it myself somewhere along the way, became my thing too, that coffee, that patience, that space he carved out of the dark for us to speak. I learned from him that presence isn't measured in hours. It's measured in fishing rods and whiskey coffee and 800-kilometer drives and the kind of silence that says I'm here. I'm listening, take your time. I remember one trip when I was 17. I was angry about everything. About school, about money, about the way the world looked at me. I sat in the car for an hour after we arrived, refusing to get out. My father didn't come to get me. He didn't knock on the window. He just walked down Toth Water, set up his rod, poured his coffee with whiskey and sat down. After a while I got out. I walked down to the water. I sat next to him. We didn't speak for a long time. Then he said, the fish will come or they won't. The waiting is the point. I didn't understand then. I do now. He was teaching me that presence is not about doing. It's about being there, being still, being available. and trusting that the people you love will come to you when they're ready. I've thought about this a lot, my love, about why people stay. It's not about what you say. It's not about what you give. It's not about any of the things the world tells you matter. It's about how you make people feel when someone is around you and they feel seen, when they feel safe. When they feel like they don't have to perform or pretend or prove anything, when they can just be, when they can bring their mess, their fear, their exhaustion, and you don't flinch. That's why they stay, not because you're impressive, because you're present, not because you have answers, because you have attention, not because you fix things, because you hold space. You have this too, my love, I see it in you. The way your friends come to you with things they don't tell anyone else, the way people trust you with their mess, the way you listen, really listen in a world where everyone's just waiting to speak, the way you did that night, when I said I didn't have the money and you said it's fine. Because it was fine, because you saw me struggling and you made space. That's why people stay. You make them feel safe. You make them feel seen. You make them feel like they matter. That's not small. That's everything. The world will try to convince you that leadership is about being loud, being first, being right, that charisma is about performance, that influence is about who you know or what you've achieved. That's a lie. Real leadership is about making people feel like they can breathe around you, like they don't have to be anyone other than who they are, like their mess is safe with you, like their fear won't be used against them. I don't know why I have this. I don't know why you have it. Maybe it's in the blood. Maybe it's something we learned from your grandmother's smile and your father's silence by the water. Maybe it's just who we are, but we have it. And it matters. Use it well, my love. Make people feel safe. Make them feel seen. Make them feel like they matter. That's why they'll stay, not because of what you do. Because of who you are. With love, Dad. Letter 9. The one who watches Volume 2. The Outer World, my love. There's something about you I've noticed since you were small. You watch. Before you speak, you watch. Before you join, you watch. Before you decide, you watch. You sit back, observe, take in the whole room before you ever move. I used to wonder if you were shy. You're not. You're something else. You're an observer. I'm the same way. I always have been. Think about the stories I've told you. The R30 night, I watched your mother's face. The warehouse, I watched the dynamics no one else noticed. The call center, I watched patience, watched how her voice changed the room, watched Thabo disappear and no one see. The boardroom in Margate, I watched Mrs. Delamini, watched how her stillness commanded more than any speech. I didn't learn these things by talking. I learned them by watching, by being quiet long in auto, see what others missed. My father was the same. Those fishing trips to Hearties. 800 kilometers through the dark. 3 days by the water, just sitting there, waiting for us to speak. He wasn't being passive. He wasn't tired. He wasn't avoiding us. He was watching, learning us, seeing who we were becoming, creating space for us to reveal ourselves. I remember one night late. The fire had burned down to embers. The water was black. The only sound was the occasional fish jumping or the wind moving through the grass. My father sat in his chair, rod in hand, coffee with whiskey steaming beside him. I was 16, full of anger I couldn't name. I sat across from him, saying nothing, feeling through it of everything I couldn't say. He didn't ask. He didn't push. He just sat there, watching the water, watching me. After a long time I spoke. The words came out broken. Something about school, about friends, about not belonging. I didn't make sense. I was half crying, half angry. He didn't fix it. He didn't lecture. He just nodded. Then he asked a question. Just one. What do you need? I didn't have an answer, but the question stayed with me. It stayed for years. He taught me without ever saying a word that the people who understand the world best are the ones who watch it longest. And that watching is not the end. It's the beginning of knowing what to ask. Uncle Rasta showed me something about watching too, not with silence, with laughter. When things were dark in the shack, when the rent was due and the money wasn't there and Dion was coughing in the corner, Rasta would start telling jokes. Stupid jokes, the kind that aren't funny until you're so tired that anything is funny. He wasn't ignoring the weight. He was watching us. He saw when we were about to break and he threw a rope. Not a lecture, not advice, just a laugh, just a moment of lightness in the heavy dark. That's watching too. The kind that acts, the kind that reaches. He never said, I'm watching you. He just was, and because he was, we made it through. Almost lost Uncle Melvin the other day. We were in his flat in Midrand. Late, the city lights were visible through the window. Hugh was sitting on the couch across from me, his hands folded, his head down. He had been quiet for weeks, quieter than usual. The kind of quiet that comes before something breaks. I saw it, I noticed, but the watcher was running the show. I told myself, wait, he will comito you when he is ready. Do not push, do not make it worse. I watched him. I analyzed his posture, the way his shoulders were rounded, the way his eyes stayed on the floor. I told myself I was respecting his space. I told myself I was being a good friend. 3 weeks passed. 3 weeks of watching him shrink into himself. When he finally broke, it was not with me. He called his sister. She lived in Durban. She didn't know the details. She didn't know the weight he was carrying, but she listened. She held the phone. She said, I'm here. I stood in the doorway watching, and I understood. The watcher had become a wall, not between him and me, between me and him. I had watched so long I forgot to reach. I had mistaken observation for love. And love, my love, requires more than eyes. It requires hands. The observer saves you from reacting. But if you never act, you never love, you never hold, you never reach. I learned that lesson again with you, the night you fell off your bike in the parking lot. I stood there wanting to scoop you up, to fix everything. But something made me wait, a breath, A question, what if I just wait? You wiped your own tears. You took a moment, and then you picked up that bicycle and kept riding. That time the watching was right, because I was watching for your strength, not my fear. It was watching to see if you needed me, not to analyze your weakness. The difference is everything. I see you doing this, my love, not just watching. Acting on what you see when your friend is quiet at lunch and you ask, what's wrong, even when no one else notices. When you read a draft and notice I left out William, and you say it out loud. When you hear the blue-eyed boy gave you the ick and you laugh instead of spiral, you watch, but you also reach. That's the gift. Not the watching alone, the watching that leads to something. The stillness that becomes a question. The silence that becomes a hand held out. The world will try to convince you that the loud ones are the leaders, that the ones who speak first are the ones who matter. That silence is weakness and watching is passivity. Don't believe them. The ones who watch understand. The ones who watch know when to speak. And when they speak, their words land like stones in still water. The ripples last longer than the shouts. With love, Dad. Letter 10, The Weight You Can't See, Volume 2. The outer world, my love, there's a kind of work that no one pays you for. It's not the work of hands. It's not the work of hours. It's not the work that shows up on a timesheet or gets counted at the end of the month. It's the work of holding emotions, holding tension, holding people when they're falling apart, holding the space between what is said and what is meant, holding the silence that everyone else is afraid to sit in. I want to tell you about this work because you do it. You've always done it. And no one ever tells you what it costs. Think about your friendships. Who do your friends come to when they're struggling? Who do they call at 2 a.m. when they can't sleep? Who carries their secrets, their pain, their mess, their shame? If you're honest, it's you, not because you asked for it. Not because you're stronger than everyone else, because you're safe, because you listen. Because you make people feel like they don't have to perform, don't have to pretend, don't have to be anything other than exactly what they are in that moment. That's emotional labor. And it's real work. It's heavier than most people know. Nomusa, she worked with me in the business back when we had the Mastermind with Melvin and Donovan. She was quiet, reliable, the kind of person who never caused problems, never asked for help, never complained. I thought she was fine. Everyone thought she was fine, because she always said she was fine. One day she pulled me aside. We were in the break room. The kettle was boiling. The fluorescent light hummed overhead. She was holding a cup of tea, but she wasn't drinking it, just holding it. Her knuckles were white. You know why I'm still here? She asked. I shook my head. Because of you, not the business, not the money. You, when I'm around you, I feel like everything going to be okay. I don't know how to explain it. I just feel safe. I didn't know what to say. I still don't. But then she said something else. Something that stayed with me. But who holds you? I didn't have an answer. I still don't. That was the warning, the one I didn't hear. Nomusa was telling me in her quiet way that I was carrying too much. That the weight of holding everyone else was crushing me. That one day the well would run dry. I didn't listen, because when you're the one who can, everyone needs you. All at once, all the time. And slowly, without anyone meaning to, without anyone noticing, without any ill intent, you become the solution, the stabilizer, the fallback plan for everyone who depends on you. And no one asks how you're doing. There was a moment in 2020 I've never told you about. Things were falling apart. The business was struggling. COVID had hit. Money was tight. Fear was everywhere. Everyone was looking to me not for answers necessarily, just for steadiness. For the feeling that everything would be okay. For the calm in the middle of the storm. I held it together. That's what I do. But one night after everyone had gone home, after the calls stopped coming, after you were asleep and the house was quiet, I sat on the edge of the bed and I couldn't move, not tired, not sad, not depressed exactly, just empty, like I'd given everything and there was nothing left for me, like I'd poured from a well that had run dry and didn't know how to fill, like I'd held so many people that I'd forgotten how to be held. I sat there for hours, watching the dark, feeling nothing. Wondering how long I could keep holding everyone else before I broke. The next morning I got up, made coffee and did it all again. No one knew, no one asked, because no one thinks to ask the one who holds everything to each other. They just assume you're fine. You're always fine, that's why they come to you. Your grandmother knew this cost. She held all of us, her children, her family, everyone who came through her door. She smiled through cancer, through chemo, through pain that would have broken most people. She cooked, she cared, she showed up, she loved. She gave and gave and gave, but who held her? I don't know, I hope someone did. I hope in those quiet moments when no one was watching there was someone who asked how she was doing, who let her fall apart, who held her the way she held everyone else. I'll never know, she never complained. That's what holders do. My father held in a different way, not by taking on emotional weight, by creating space, by sitting by the water asking questions, waiting for answers, by making us feel like we're mattered without ever saying it, but who held him. Who asked him how he was doing after 800 kilometers through the dark, after 3 days of waiting for boys who didn't know how to speak. I do know. I was too young to ask. I hope someone did. You will carry this weight too, my love. You already are the friends who lean on you, the family who depends on you, the people who feel safe because you're there, the ones who come to you with their mess because they know you won't flinch. That's beautiful. Don't stop. Don't let anyone make you feel like your holding doesn't matter. It matters more than almost anything. It matters more than most people will ever know. But here's what I need you to remember. You also need someone to hold you. You also need to fall apart sometimes. You also need to be the one who's held, not just the air holding. You also need to sit on the edge of the bed and feel empty and have someone ask, what do you need? How can I support you? What's the next step? Find your people. The ones who will ask how you are. The ones who will carry your weight when you can't carry it yourself. The ones who will be the holder when you need to be held. Let them. Because the weight you can't see, the emotional labor, the quiet holding, the invisible work, it's real. And it adds up. Don't carry it alone. I'm still learning to ask for help. I hope you learn faster than I did. With love, Dad. Letter 11. The Call Center Years Volume 2. The Outer World. My love. There's a time when I was young and trying to figure out who I was. I was staying in Bramfontein. Student area. One of the most vibrant places I've ever been, probably because it's youth central. The streets were always busy. Someone playing music from a window 3 floors up. I working at a call center, the kind of place where you sit in a cubicle with a headset on your head and a script in front of you. The same words over and over. The same voice, the same tone, the same smile that no one could see, 8 hours a day. Sometimes more. The room was loud, headsets buzzing, people talking, shouting, whispering into their microphones. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. The air smelled like coffee and sweat and the cheap perfume someone sprayed to cover it all up. I sat between Grant and Conrad. Grant was fast, the fastest on the floor. He could finish a call in 2 minutes flat, solve the problem, get the customer off the line, move to the next. His voice was smooth, practiced, professional. He never let a silence sit. He filled every gap with words. I was somewhere in the middle. I could do the script. I could hit the numbers, but something in me hated it, the performance of it, the way my voice changed when the call connected. The way I became someone else for 8 hours a day. There was a supervisor named Marvin. He walked the floor with a clipboard checking our stats, talk time, resolution rate, customer satisfaction. He wasn't cruel. He wasn't kind either. He was just management. He'd stop at my desk sometimes. Pride, your numbers are good. But you're taking too long on the follow-up. Speed it up. I'd nod, say yes, go back to the script, but I couldn't stop the part of me that listened. That stayed on the line when the customer was crying about a late payment or an overdraft or a bill they couldn't pay. I knew that feeling, the weight of not enough. The phone cutting off your air, I couldn't hang up on it. Patience sat 3 rows down. She had a voice like warm tea. When she spoke, people listened. When she spoke, the room got quiet. Your voice is not a mask, she said. It's a door. When you pick up the phone, you're not becoming someone else. You're inviting someone into the room you already are. I didn't understand then. I thought the mask was necessary. The performance was the job. But she was right. The callers knew. They could hear the difference between a script and a person. They could hear when someone was reading words and when someone was sitting with them in the not enough. I started to change. Slowly, I let my voice drop. I stopped rushing. I let the silence sit when a caller was too tired to speak. My numbers went down. Marvin frowned, but something else happened. People started saying thank you. Not the automatic thank you at the end of the call. The real one. The one that comes after a silence, after a breath, after someone has been seen. Thabo sat next to me for 3 months. He was quiet. He never spoke in the break room. He never joined us for lunch. He just sat in his cubicle, made his calls, went home. I didn't think much of it. Some people are quiet. Some people keep to themselves. But one day he didn't come back. I asked around. No one knew. No one had asked. I thought about him for weeks, wondering if he was okay, wondering if anyone had noticed he was gone. I hadn't noticed. Not really. I saw him every day, but I didn't see him. I was too busy with my own calls, my own numbers, my own performance. He was a Moses I never sat with. I carried that. The knowing that someone had been sitting next to me, struggling, and I had been too busy with my script to notice. My favorite person was in Essentia. She had a keen eye. She was older than the rest of us, maybe 40. She'd been in call centers her whole life. Her voice was tired in a way that had nothing to do with the shift. She told me once in the break room with the coffee machine hissing behind her, "This job is a trap. You think it's a start, but it's a cycle. You earn just enough to survive. You go intoxicate before the month ends. And then you wake up 20 years later and you've lost all your ideas, all your dreams. You have nothing to show for it but a headset and a script." I felt it in my chest, the weight of her words. I didn't want to be 40 with a headset and a script. I didn't want to be the man who lost his ideas because he was too tired to hold them, but I didn't know how to leave. The rent was due, the phone was on. The cycle was already turning. Uncle Paul back then, before, when we were still only just colleagues. We would walk to the taxi rank together after shifts, the sun setting over Bramfontein, the city buzzing around us. We talked about everything. Music, girls, the future. One night, he said something I never forgot. "You're not going to be here forever," he said. "You're just passing through. Don't let this place convince you otherwise." I laughed. "How do you know?" "Because you hate it," he said. "The people who stay don't hate it. They've made peace with it. You haven't. That means you're still alive." Was right. I hated it, not the people, the trap, the way the days blended together, the way the script became the only voice I thought I had. But I stayed because I didn't know what else to do. The mask is not the enemy. The performance is not the enemy. Sometimes you need it to get through the day. Sometimes you need it to pay the rent, to keep the lights on, to survive. The enemy is forgetting that it's a mask. The enemy is wearing it so long you forget who you are underneath. The enemy is waking up 20 years later with a headset and a script and nothing to show for it but the time you spent being someone else. The mask is a tool. It is not a home. Patience taught me that. Innocentia warned me. Paul reminded me. And Thabo, quiet, invisible Thabo, taught me what happens when no one sees you. I carry them all with me. Even now, you'll have voices you use in different rooms. Versions of yourself that you choose to be because the moment needs them. That's not wrong. That's not dishonest. That's how you move through the world. But find the room where the mask comes off. Find the person who sees you without it. Find the place where you can be raw and tired and real and still be loved. Because if you don't, the mask will become your face. And the person you are underneath, the one with the ideas, the dreams, the words you whisper to yourself in the dark, that person will disappear. And the world will have lost something it needed. With love, Dad, Letter 12. The Currency You, KNOWRU had Volume 2, The Outer World. My love, there is a kind of wealth that doesn't live in banks. It doesn't show up on statements. It doesn't earn interest. It can't be spent or saved or transferred. You can't see it, touch it, count it, but it's real. Realer than money in some ways. It lives in people, in relationships. In the quiet network of trust and connection that holds everything together when money can't. Andal worked with us at the warehouse years ago. Strong guy, could lift more than anyone, could work longer than anyone. Never complained, never slowed down, never missed a shift. When the company ran into trouble, Andal was the first to be let go. Not because he wasn't good, not because he didn't work hard, because lifting was all he knew, and when they needed less lifting, they needed less of him. I ran into him years later. He was selling vegetables at a taxi rank. The sun was hot. The pavement was cracked. He was sitting on an orange crate, a small pile of tomatoes and onions in front of him. Not doing badly, just surviving, getting by, existing. I asked him, why don't you go back to warehouse work? He said, nobody's hiring. I asked, what else can you do? He looked at me like I'd asked him to fly, like the question itself didn't make sense in his world. What else? I lift things, that's it. Andal didn't know he had other currency. He'd spent his whole life trading his back for money, never realizing that his mind, his experience, his knowledge of how that warehouse actually ran, the systems, the shortcuts, the people, the patterns, those were worth something too. He was a vault of value and he didn't even know the combination. I've thought about Andal a lot over the years, because I've been him. We all have. The times I thought my only value was my labor. The times I forgot that I carried things no one could take. Experience, insight, the ability to see patterns, the way people trusted me for reasons I couldn't name. The times I measured myself by what I could do with my hands instead of what I carried in my mind and heart. Your Uncle Melvin saw this in me before I saw it myself. When we started that business in 2019, I didn't have what he had. I wasn't the genius with ideas. I wasn't the salesman who could close anyone. By any objective measure, I was the least valuable person in the room, but I had something else. People gravitated toward me. I don't know why, I've never fully understood it, but in a room full of brilliant people, I was the one they gathered around. Turns out I was the one who could take Melvin's ideas and Donovan's connections and make everyone see the same vision. I was the one who held the space where something could grow. One day, Melvin pulled me aside. We were standing by the window in his flat. The city lights were scattered below. He didn't look at me. He looked out at the dark. You think you're just here to fill gaps, he said. But you're not. You're the reason any off-thighs holds together. That's your currency. Don't trade it for anything. I didn't understand then. I do now. There's a word for what Andal didn't have and what Melvin saw in me. It's called social capital, not the capital of money, the capital of connection. The trust people have in you. The doors that open because someone knows your name. The help that comes without asking because you have helped without counting. Andal had no social capital. Not because he wasn't a good man, because he had never been seen. No one had noticed his patterns, his insights, his quiet reliability. He had spent years lifting boxes, and the people who benefited from his labor had never looked past his back. My father had social capital in a different form. Not money, presents. He drove trucks for years. He was gone for weeks. When he came home, he didn't bring presents. He brought time. He sat by the water. He asked questions. He waited. That was his currency. Patience, attention. The kind of silence that makes a boy feel like he matters. He gave it freely. He never counted. But when he needed help, people came. Not because Hugh was rich, because he had invested in something that compounds, being seen. Andal sold vegetables at a taxi rank. He didn't know he had other currency. He didn't know that his experience could be taught, his patterns could be shared, his reliability could be a door for someone else. I think about him sometimes, wondering if anyone ever saw him. Wondering if anyone ever asked, what else can you? Hope so. You have currency you don't know about yet, my love. It's not just money. It's never just money. It's the way you notice things other people miss. The way you did the math that night when I couldn't. The way you see value in places I don't. The way you read people, understand situations. Feel what others are feeling before they say it. It's the way you listen. The way you make people feel safe. The way you hold space for Somion's mess without flinching. It's the way you ask questions that no one else thinks to ask. The way you notice what's missing, like William's name in that draft, and speak it into existence. That's currency. and no one can take it from you. The world will try to convince you that your only value is what you can trade for money. That's a lie. The world tells that lie because it benefits from you not knowing what you carry, but you carry more than you know. Learn to see it, learn to use it, learn to trade it for things that matter. Not everyone will understand. That's fine. They don't need to, you just need to know. With love, Dad. Letter 13. The Saturday Club Volume 2. The Outer World, my love. Let me tell you about 10 women in Umlazi, Durban. Every Saturday for 12 years, they gathered in a small house on a dusty street. Some were sisters, some were neighbors, some had known each other for decades. Some had just met through the club and become something more. On the table sat an old biscuit tin, painted once, now silver showing through at the edges. That kind of tin that's been handled so many times it feels soft. The lid didn't fit properly anymore, it wobbled when you opened it. One by one, each woman placed money in the tin. R100. R200, R500, whatever they agreed for that month. The tin filled, the coins clinked, the notes settled. No one counted it yet, no one needed to. They trusted each other. They called it the Saturday Club. Gogo Maria was the oldest, 70 years old, small and strong and quiet. She saved 4 funerals, not hers yet. She laughed, but for when they were needed. For when someone in the community lost a person they loved and couldn't afford to bury them with dignity. You can't bury a person on wishes, she said. You need money, you need family. This is both. She said this while stirring a pot of tea. The kitchen was small, the windows were open. The sound of children playing in the street drifted in. The kettle whistled. She poured the tea in Thomas-matched cups, some chipped, some cracked, all clean. No one refused the tea. No one complained about the cups. That's what a stokvel is, my love, not just a savings club, not just a way to pool money. A community holding each other up. A promise written in actions, not words. That social capital, not what you have, who you are to people, who they are to you, the web of trust that holds when money can't. The women in that room had seen things. 4 of them had buried husbands, 2 had sent children to university. 1 had built a room onto her house with her own hands. All of them had survived things they couldn't have survived alone, and every Saturday they showed up. Same time, same place, same tin. Same trust. I asked Gogo Maria once, why 12 years, why not a bank? She laughed. Her laugh was low and warm, like the kettle after it's boiled. The bank doesn't know my name, she said. The bank doesn't know when my daughter is sick. The bank doesn't care if I eat. These women know, these women care. She put her hand on the biscuit tin. Her fingers were thin, the knuckles swollen. Age or work, I couldn't tell. This tin holds more than money. It holds us. It's not about willpower. It's not about being strong. It's not about any of the things we tell ourselves when we're trying to go it alone. It's about accountability. You try to save alone, you'll talk yourself out of it. Something always comes up. There's always a reason to spend instead of save. The money burns a hole in your pocket and you're the only one watching. You're the only one who knows. You're the only one who will be disappointed if you fail. But if 10 women are expecting you on Saturday, you show up. Not because you're strong, because they're waiting. Because they'll notice if you're not there. Because your absence matters. The stokvel doesn't rely on individual strength. It relies on collective expectation. And collective expectation is stronger than any individual will. 12 years, same Saturday, same women. Think about that. 12 years of showing up. 12 years of putting money in the tin. 12 years of trusting that the rotation would hold, that no one would run, that everyone would get their turn. 12 years of sitting in that small house, drinking tea, sharing stories, watching children grow and leave and have children of their own. That's not a savings plan. That's a way of life. I think about the stokvel whenever I'm tempted to go it alone, when I think I can figure it out by myself, when I'm too proud to ask for help, when I believe that real strength means needing no one. The stokvel women know better. They know that alone you can go fast, but together you go far. They know that the tin is just a symbol. What matters is the Saturday, the showing up, being seen, the knowing that someone expects you, the knowing that you matter to someone else's plan. One Saturday when the rotation came to Gogo Maria, it was her turn to take the tin. All the money collected over months was hers to use. She didn't buy anything for herself. She bought a new stove for the community hall. The old one had been broken for years. No one had fixed it because no one had the money. She brought the stove to the hall on a Saturday. The women gathered. They cooked a meal together. They fed the children, the neighbors, the old men who sat on the curb. That's what the stokvel is. Not saving, not spending, circulating. The money flows and so does the care. Gogo Maria didn't get a new stove in her kitchen. She got a stove that fed the street. She told me, the money was never mine, it was ours. I just held it for a while. You don't need a stokvel to learn this lesson. But you need something like it. A person who checks in on you. A group that expects you. A commitment that holds you accountable. A community that notices when you're not there, because left to ourselves we leak, we drift, we spend what we meant to save, we quit what we meant to finish. We disappear into our own struggles and forget that we're part of something bigger. But when others are watching, when others are waiting, we show up, not because we're strong, because they're waiting. I've had my own stokvels, my love, not with money always, but with something deeper. Melvin and Donovan in that business. Your uncles in that shack, the strangers who showed up that night in March. The people who have carried me when I couldn't carry myself. They were my Saturday club. They held the tin. They expected me. They noticed when he wasn't there. I hope you find your own Stockfell, your own Saturday club. Your own people who expect you, who hold you, who make you show up not because you have to, but because they're waiting. And I hope you become that for someone else, the one who notices, the one who expects, the one who holds the tin. That's the real wealth, my love, not what you save. Who you save it with Love Dad Letter 14, The Corner Volume 2, The Outer World, my love. There's a place I want you to know about. In Atteridgeville, Pretoria, there's a corner, Hope Street and Main Road. On that corner, within 50 meters, you'll find 4 businesses that have been there for years, decades, some of them. Through good times and bad, through changes in the neighborhood, the economy, the world, I used to pass through Atteridgeville on my way to meetings. I didn't live there, I didn't know anyone there, but something about that corner made me slow down. Auntie Grace's Kota stand. She sells bread, chips, polony, cheese, eggs, anything. R20 for a regular, R30 for full works. Open 7 am to 7 p.m., 6 days a week. Her customers are school kids, taxi drivers, workers who need something fast and filling before the next shift. I bought a Kota from her once, not because I was hungry, because I was curious. She was wrapping it in brown paper, her hands quick, her eyes on the street. She didn't ask my name, she didn't need to. She saw me as a customer, not a stranger. You're not from here, she said, not a question. No, doesn't matter, you're hungry. She was right, I was hungry, not for food. For something I couldn't name. She started because people were hungry at the taxi rank. She didn't do market research. She didn't write a business plan. She didn't wait for permission. She just noticed a need and filled it. That's how corners are born. Uncle Solly's car wash bucket, sponge, elbow grease. R30 for a car, R50 for a baccy. Open weekends and afternoons whenever he's not at his other job. His customers are taxi owners, neighbors, people who want their cars to look like something even if they can't afford the fancy places. I watched him work one afternoon. The sun was hot. The water ran grey into the gutter. He didn't rush, he didn't slack. He just moved around the car in a slow circle, methodical like Ammon, who had done this 10,000 times. He started with what he had, a bucket, a sponge, his own 2 hands, and a patch of ground no one else was using. He didn't wait for equipment or investment. He just started. His hands were cracked. The soap dried his skin, but he didn't complain. This corner, he said without looking up. It's not about the cars, it's about the people. They come to talk. The washing is just an excuse. Spa's a shop run by the Mohammed family since 1998. Sells everything: bread, milk, cool drink, airtime, paraffin, soap, sugar, matches. Open 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day, including Sundays. His customers are the whole neighborhood, anyone who needs anything after the big shops close. 25 years, same shop, same service, same reliability, same family behind the counter. Asked the father once, how do you stay open so long? He looked at me over his glasses. The big shop's close at 6. People still need bread at 7. That's not a gap, that's a door. They didn't get rich, but they never left, they never closed, they never stopped being there. Their daughter, maybe 17, sat behind the counter doing homework. Her textbook was open to a page about economics. Supply and demand, elasticity, market structures. She was living the lesson while she read it. Precious's hair stall. R30 for plaits, R50 if you want beads. Works from her grandmother's veranda under a makeshift awning when it rains. Open after school and weekends whenever she's not studying. Her customers are girls from the neighborhood, women who want to look good without salon prices. She started with a skill her grandmother taught her. She didn't have capital. She had her hands, her willingness to learn, and a grandmother who believed in her. I saw her braiding a girl's hair one Saturday. The girl was maybe 12, nervous, twisting her fingers. Precious talked to her the whole time. Not about hair, about school, about friends, about the boy who didn't text back. The girl left smiling. Her hair was neat, but that wasn't why she was smiling. The beauty I noticed about that corner. These 4 businesses don't compete. They connect. Taxi drivers get washed at Uncle Solly's, then buy Kota at Auntie Grace. School kids buy at her Spaza shop, then get their hair done at Precious's. Auntie Grace buys bread from the Spaza shop. Precious buys cool drink from the Spaza shop. Uncle Solly sends customers to Auntie Grace when they mention they're hungry. Money flows between them. Stays in the community, helps everyone, circulates instead off leaving. None of them went to business school. None have business plans or marketing strategies or 5-year projections, but all of them understand something textbooks forget. Community is circulation. I've thought about that corner a lot over the years. Not because it's special, because it's not. Every community has its own version. Every neighborhood has its own corner, its own network, its own circulation of care and money and attention. The question is whether you're part of it or just passing through. Your grandmother understood this. The way she cooked for everyone who showed up. The way she sent people home with more than they came for. The way her table was always full, always open, always welcoming. The way the hospital room on her last day was packed, not because we couldn't get there, but because so many others had to say goodbye. She was a corner. People flowed through her, and she held them. My father understood it too. Those Christmas celebrations in the backyard. Everyone in Theoria would show up. People talked about them for days, for weeks, for years. He loved people, all people, one love, that was him. He was a corner too. You'll spend your life trying to figure out who to trust, who to let in, who to hold close. And you should. The mirrors will teach you. The windows will save you, but if you're lucky, if you build it, you'll also find your corner, your people. Your place where money and care and attention flow in ways that hold everyone up. Your Auntie Grace, your Uncle Solly, your Mohammed family, your precious. It might not look like a street corner, it might be a kitchen, a classroom, a taxi rank, a church hall, a group chat that actually feels like home, a circle of friends who show up, but you'll know it when you find it, because when you're there you'll stop counting, you'll stop keeping score, you'll just circulate, give when you have, receive when you need. Trust that it flows both ways. I think about Auntie Grace sometimes, wondering if she knows what she built, not just a quota stand, a place, a node in the network, a reason for people to gather, to eat, to connect, a reason for the corner to hold. That corner exists, my love. I've seen it. Build yours with Love Dad Letter 15. The Woman Who Built Me Volume 2. The Outer World, my love. There's a story I haven't told you. Not because I was hiding it, because I didn't know how total it. Because I didn't understand it until now. Your mother built me. Not with words, not with lectures, not with any of the things the world thinks of as building. She built me with her hands, with her paycheck, with the way she looked at me and saw me and worth becoming. Remember the first time she took me shopping. I was a man. I took care of business. I paid rent. I bought food. I handled the bills. That was me job. That was what I was supposed to do. But when she got paid, she didn't spend her money on herself. She spent it on me. Let's go, she'd say. You need a new shirt. You need shoes that fit. You need to look like the man you are. Protest. I didn't need anything. I was fine. I had what I needed. She'd shake her head. You have what you need to survive. I'm not trying to help you survive. I'm trying to help you live. She took me to shops I'd never been to, places where the clothes felt different. The fabric was heavier. The stitching was careful, the fit was intentional. The air smelled of new cotton and leather and something clean. She'd hold up a shirt against my chest, tilt her head, look at me like I was a building she was designing. This one, she'd say. This is you. Look in the mirror and see someone I didn't recognize. Someone who stood taller, someone who walked differently. Someone who entered a room like he had a right to better. That was her gift, not the clothes, the seeing, the way she looked at me and saw the man I could become. The way she dressed that man before he existed. The way she gave him a body to grow into. I reminisce when I see men who didn't have that, the ones who fall into habits that destroy them. The drinking that starts on Friday and ends on Monday and never really stops. The friends who laid them toward things that cost more than money. The cycles of spending, of recklessness, of losing what little they have. I see them and I think, no one built them. No one looked at them and said, this is you. No one dressed the man they could become before he existed. Your mother built me, and because she built me, I could build something else. The curriculum, the business, these letters, this life, not because I was stronger than the men who fell, because I had someone who saw me before I could see myself. There was a mirror in our bedroom, full length, the kind that shows you everything you don't want to see. I used to avoid it. I'd walk past with my eyes down, my shoulders hunched, as if the mirror would accuse me of something. One day she stood me in front of it. She said I saw a man who was tired, a man who was trying, a man who wasn't sure he weighed enough. The shirt she'd bought me hung loose because I'd lost weight. I couldn't afford Tolos. My eyes were hollow. My jaw was tight. She stood beside me. She put her hand on my shoulder. Her hand was warm. Her fingers were steady. Again, I looked again. This time I saw what she saw, not the tired, not the trying. The man who had walked 800 kilometers through the dark to be with his brothers. The man who kept showing up when showing up was hard. The man who was learning to be a father while he was being a father. I saw someone I could stand in front of a mirror and be proud of. That was her. All of it, the grooming, the seeing, the building. She didn't just buy me clothes. She bought me a reflection I could live with. Have you ever noticed something about your mother's hands? Her hands were not soft. They were the hands of someone who worked, who cooked, hot cleaned, who held a baby for hours while the baby slept. She would hold my face sometimes, both hands on my cheeks, look me in the eye, not say anything, just hold. I used to think she was checking on me, making sure I was still there. Now I think she was reminding me that I was. That's what the woman who built me did. She didn't give me money, she gave me a reflection. She didn't give me answers. She gave me a question, who do you want to be? And then she waited. While I figured it out, you will have people who build you, my love. Some will give you clothes, some will give you time, some will give you a hand on your shoulder when you can't look in the mirror, and one day you will build someone else. You'll see them in a shop, holding a shirt against their chest, unsure. You'll see them avoiding the mirror, shoulders hunched. You'll see them tired, trying, not sure they're enough, and you'll say, this one, this is you. That's what the woman who built me taught me, that building is not about giving someone what they need. It's about seeing who they are becoming and dressing that person before they exist. With Love Dad Letter 16, The Wrong Room Volume 2, The Outer World, my love, there's a kind of pain that doesn't come from failure. It doesn't come from making a mistake or falling short or not trying hard enough. It's not the pain of effort that wasn't enough. It comes from being valuable in the wrong room. I learned this at the warehouse. Not the one with the VNA machine, a different one. A smaller one where I was the only black man in the office. I wasn't hired to think. I was hired to do. To move boxes, to process orders, to keep my head down and my mouth shut, but I couldn't help it. I saw things. The way the inventory system was inefficient. The way the schedule overlapped shifts, costing overtime. The way a simple change in layout would save 10 minutes a day. Brought ideas to the manager. He listened. He nodded. He said, interesting. And then headed nothing. Months passed. The ideas stayed on the floor. The inefficiencies stayed. The overtime kept costing. Then one day a consultant came. White man, expensive watch, leather briefcase. He walked through the warehouse for an hour, asked a few questions, and wrote a report. The report contained my ideas. Word for word, management praised him, gave him a bonus, implemented the changes. I stood in the corner watching. Observer saw it all. The consultant didn't know my name. He didn't know I existed. He walked through the room, collected the value that was already there, and called it his own. That's what it feels like to be valuable in the wrong room. You speak. No one hears. A stranger speaks your words. Everyone claps. There was another room, a boardroom, not the one with Mrs. Delamini, a different one, no windows, fluorescent lights, a long table with chairs that creaked. I was there to present a proposal. Something I had worked on for weeks. Late nights, early mornings, draft after draft, I stood up, I spoke, I showed the slides, I answered questions. When I finished, the man at the head of the table said, "Thank you, we'll take it under advisement." I never heard back. Months later, I saw the same proposal, different cover page, different name at the bottom. A colleague who had been in that room, who had said nothing during the presentation, who had taken notes while I spoke, he had taken my notes. That's the wrong room, not a room where you fail. A room where your value is invisible because the people in it cannot see you. Or they see you and they take what you have. Ansi call it their own. Your Uncle Sledge knew this room. When he left for Cape Town, he left a job where he was undervalued. He did the work off 3 men. He never complained. He never asked for more. When he asked for a raise, they said, "Times are tight." When he gave his notice, they said, "We didn't know you were unhappy." That's the wrong room. Not the room where they say no. The room where they never even see you standing there. I think about Andal sometimes. The man who only knew how to lift. When the company ran into trouble, he was the first to go. Not because he wasn't good, not because he didn't work hard, because his value was tied to one thing. And when that thing wasn't needed anymore, no one saw what else he carried. He had years of experience. He knew how the place actually worked, the shortcuts, the patterns, the people. He knew who to trust and who to watch. He knew when things were about to go wrong before anyone else felt it, but no one asked, no one saw. When the room changed, his value became invisible. No harm in leaving wrong rooms though, not loudly. Not with drama, just quietly. I stopped bringing ideas. I stopped staying late. I stopped expecting to be seen. I did my job. I went home. I built the curriculum in the shack. The wrong room taught me that not every room deserves your value. Not every table is hungry for what you have. Some tables will let your food rot while they eat from someone else's plate. The trick is not to keep serving. The trick is to find another table. Mrs. Delamini's table was different. She saw, she didn't take, she didn't clap for the consultant. She sat at the far end, folded her hands, and said 3 sentences that landed like stones. That was the right room. Not because she praised me, because she saw me. You will be in wrong rooms, many of them, rooms where your voice is not heard, rooms where your ideas are taken. Rooms where you are the only one who looks like you, sounds like you, carries your name. In those rooms you will be tempted to shrink, to stay quiet, to protect yourself by disappearing. Don't speak anyway, not for them, for you, because the wrong room is not the only room. And every word you speak is a stone you carry to the next place. The consultant took my ideas, but he couldn't take the knowing. He couldn't take the years off standing in the warehouse, watching, learning, seeing what no one else saw. That was mine. That is still mine. The wrong room cannot take what you carry. It can only ignore it, and being ignored is not the same as being empty. With Love Dad Letter 17. When You Outgrow a Room Volume 2. The Outer World, My Love. There was a morning I stood in the doorway of a room I had outgrown. It was the call center. The same one with the headsets and the scripts and the fluorescent lights that hummed. I had been there for years. I knew every shortcut, every supervisor, every way to calm an angry customer, but something had shifted, quietly, without permission. I started seeing things differently. The routines that used to feel comfortable now felt like cages. The conversations that used to pass the time now felt like noise. The future that used to feel secure now felt like a slow death. The same cubicle, the same chair, the same crack in the wall by the water cooler. And I thought, I can't stay here. Not because it's bad, because I'm not the same person who walked in. I stood in the doorway that morning. My bag was on my shoulder. My security pass was in me hand. The metal was cold, worn smooth from years of swiping. I could hear the floor waking up, headsets clicking, voices warming up. The first calls of Thede, I knew the rhythm. I had lived it for years, but my chest was tight, not from fear, from knowing this room has given me everything it can, and I have taken everything I can. Leaving felt like falling, not because I had somewhere to go. Because I didn't, no new job, no plan, no safety net. Just the knowing that staying would kill something I couldn't afford to lose. I thought of your Uncle Sledge. When he left for Cape Town, he didn't have a job lined up. He had a daughter he couldn't afford to feed, a brother who was sick, and a heart full of something that looked like fear but was really hope. He didn't tell anyone he was leaving. He just packed a bag and drove. The highway was dark. The headlights cut a thin line through the night. His hands were steady on the wheel, but his chest was tight, just like mine. He didn't know if he would find work. He didn't know if the money would come. He didn't know if he would see his daughter grow up, but he knew one thing: the room he was in was not his room anymore. That's what outgrowing feels like. Not a door slamming, a door opening so slowly you don't notice at first. And then one day you wake up and the room is too small, the ceiling is too low, the air is stale. Not because the room changed, because you did. I walked out of the call center that morning. I didn't make a speech, I didn't say goodbye. It just swiped my pass for the last time, walked through the turnstile and kept walking. The parking lot was empty. The sun was low. My car was old, the paint faded, the engine slow to start. I sat in the driver's seat for a long time. The engine idled. The heater blew warm air on my hands. My chest was still tight. The voice said, "You're crazy. You have no plan. You're going to fail." I watched the voice, I named it, and then I put the car in gear and drove away. I didn't have a plan, but I had the curriculum. The one I'd been writing in the dark in Theshak, on the weekends, on the nights when I couldn't sleep. That was my door, not a job, not a paycheck. A thing I had built when no one was watching. The room I left was not a bad room. It was a room that had held me for as long as it could, and I was grateful for it, for the rent it paid, for the food it put on the table, for the people I met there, patience, Thabo in essentia. But gratitude is not the same as belonging, and belonging is not the same as staying. I picked that up from your grandmother. She was grateful for the hospital room, for the nurses who held her hand, for the doctors who tried, but she didn't stay because she was grateful. She stayed because she wasn't done, and when she was done she left, quietly, without drama, without blame. She outgrew her body before it was ready to let her go. That's the hardest outgrowing of all. Not leaving a job, not leaving a city. Leaving a body that has carried you your whole life. She did it with grace. I watched her. She taught me that outgrowing is not rejection. It is completion. You will outgrow rooms, my love, schools, friendships, versions of yourself. You will stand in doorways with your bag on your shoulder, your chest tight, the voice telling you you're crazy. In those moments, remember, the room is not wrong. The room was right for who you were, but you are not who you were, and that is not a betrayal. It is a becoming. The door is open. Walk through it. Even if you can't see what's on the other side. Your uncle's sledge did. Your grandmother did. I did. You will too, with love, Dad. Letter 18. Your name travels first, volume 2. The outer world, my love. I want to tell you about the day I walked into a room I had never entered before, and the people in that room already knew my name. It was a boardroom in Sandton. Glass walls, marble floors, the kind of place where the air is cold even when the sun is shining. I had been invited to present a proposal for a partnership. It didn't know anyone in the room. The receptionist looked at me when I walked in. Her eyes flicked to my shoes, not expensive, worn at the toes. She asked my name. I told her. She looked at her screen, scrolled, frowned. I don't see you on the list. I felt the heat rise to my face. The voice started. See, you don't belong here. You should have stayed home. But before I could turn around, a man came out of the lift. He was wearing a suit that fit perfectly. His beard was trimmed. His shoes were polished. He looked at me, then at the receptionist. He's with me, he said. I didn't know him. I had never seen him before. He walked me to the lift. The doors closed. The floor numbers lit up one by one. Your pride, he said, not a question. Yes, I've heard about you. Melvin speaks highly of you. Says you're the reason his business doesn't fall apart. I didn't know what to say. I still don't. That's the thing about the outer world, my love. Your name arrives in rooms before you do. People decide about you, who you are, what you're worth, whether to trust you, whether to give you a chance, based on what they've heard, before you've said a word, before you've ever had a chance to prove anything, before you've even walked through the door. That's reputation. Silent, invisible, and more powerful than almost anything you carry. I didn't earn that man's trust. Melvin did. He had spoken my name in rooms I had never entered. He had said, you need to meet Pride. He's the one who holds things together. I didn't know he did that. He never told me. He just did it. Because that's what brothers do. Your grandmother understood this without ever using the word. The way she treated everyone who came through her door. The way she smiled through cancer, through chemo, through pain. The way she loved openly, freely, without keeping score, without calculating return. The way she made everyone feel like they mattered. When she passed, the hospital room was packed. Not because she was important in Thewald's eyes. Not because she had status or money or power. Because her name had traveled. Because people knew who she was before they ever met her. Because her reputation was love, and love draws people in. I remember standing in that room, watching the stream of people who came to say goodbye. A woman I didn't know came up to me. She was crying. She said, your mother helped me through my divorce. She never said a word to anyone. A man I had never met said, she showed up at my door with food every night for a month after my wife died. A child who didn't understand why her mother was crying. Her mother said, your grandmother named her. She said she looked like a gift. After story, people she had named without knowing it. People she had called into being, be her attention, her presence, her love, her name traveled. Not because she told it to anyone, because she lived it. My father understood it too, I think. He was just a truck driver, gone for weeks. No title, no status, no recognition. But when he drove 800 kilometers through the dark to take his boys fishing, people noticed. When he sat by the water, waiting for us to speak, people remembered. When he asked questions and didn't flinch at the answers, people talked. His name travelled too, not far maybe, not to boardrooms or big stages, but to the people who mattered, to his sons, to his community, to everyone who ever sat by that water with him. I was at a funeral years ago. A man I didn't know came up to me. He said, "Your father helped me buy my first car, never asked for anything back, just showed up at my shop every Friday for a year just to check on me." I didn't know that, I never knew, he never told me. He never told anyone, but his name travelled anyway. Through actions, not words. There's a story I've never told you. About the time I almost lost my reputation, I was young, stupid. I borrowed money from a friend to cover a debt. I promised to pay it back in 2 weeks. 2 weeks became a month became 3. I avoided him. I didn't answer his calls. I crossed the street when I saw him coming. I told myself I would pay him when I had it. I told myself he would understand. I told myself the friendship would survive. It didn't. When I finally paid him months late, he took the money. He didn't say thank you. He said, "I don't care about the money. I care that you disappeared. I care that you didn't trust me enough to tell me the truth." That was the day I learned that reputation is not about being perfect. It's about being present. It's about facing the person you owe even when you have nothing to give. It's about saying, "I don't have it, but I will not disappear." Forgave me, but I never forgot. His name travelled too, not in boardrooms, but in Mitchest. Every time I think about borrowing money, I think about him. And I remember, your name travels. Make sure it says what you want it to say. You're building your reputation right now, my love. Every choice, every conversation, every moment you think no one's watching. Every word you speak, every silence you hold, every person you help or ignore, someone is always watching, not in a creepy way. Not in a paranoid way, in the way that matters. Your name is being written, line by line, by the people who experience you, by the people you help and the people you hurt, by the people you notice and the people you overlook. Make sure it says what you want it to say. Not for applause, not for approval, not to impress anyone. Because your name will arrive in rooms before you do, and you want it to open doors, not close them. You want it to speak well of you when you're not there to speak for yourself. And if you break your reputation, if you disappear when you owe someone, you can rebuild it. Not by explaining, by showing up, by saying I was wrong and meaning it. That is the only repair that lasts. Your name is currency. Spend it wisely. With love, Dad. Letter 19. The Architecture of Survival, Volume 2. The Outer World, my love. You never got a chance to visit me back then, so I want to walk you through a township, not the one in the brochures. Not the one with the smiles and the crafts and the tourists tacking photos. The one you see when you drive through slowly, when you stop at the robots, when you look past the main road, Tembisa, Soweto. The places where the houses are close together and the streets are narrow and the air smells like paraffin and coal, and the meat someone is grilling in their backyard. There's something about those places that no one talks about, the taverns, every 100 meters. Sometimes closer, a shebeen in a garage, a bar in someone's front room. A place with loud music and plastic chairs and the smell of cheap beer and something stronger. I used to think it was just where people went to forget, to drink away the week. To laugh with friends, to feel something other than the weight, and it was that, it is that, but it was also something else. When I was young, I didn't understand why there were so many, why every corner had a tavern, why every street had a place where men gathered to drink and women gathered to talk and children gathered outside, waiting, watching. I understand now. It's not because people in the township drink more than people in the suburbs. It's not because they have less discipline. It's not because they're weaker or lazier or any of the things the world whispers when it looks at places like Tembisa and Soweto. It's because there's nothing else, no parks with swings and benches, no libraries open late, no community centers with programs for young people, no coffee shops where you can sit for hours with a book, not places to gather that aren't about spending money you don't have. The taverns are there because they fill a space that was left empty on purpose. A space that was designed to be empty. The way a place is built, the streets, the houses, the spaces between them, it shapes the people who live there. It shapes what they can do, what they can become, what they can hope for. The Group Areas Act was not just about where you could live, it was about how you could live. It put black people on the outskirts, far from the city, far from opportunity, far from the places where money moved and futures were built. It packed families into small houses, and small houses into crowded streets, and crowded streets into townships with no parks and no libraries and no places to go except the tavern. And when the law was repealed, the buildings stayed. The streets stayed narrow. The parks never came. The libraries never opened. The architecture stayed. I walked round to other sections just to explore Tembisa. Once I was meeting up a friend who had lost his phone. The streets were dark. The streetlights were broken. The only light came from the taverns. I passed one. Then another. Then another. The sound of music spilled out. The laughter. The clink of glass. Men standing by the door smoking, watching. Women sitting inside, heads together, talking low. I thought, this is not a choice. This is a cage. But I also thought, where else would they go? There was no library open, no community center, No park bench where a person could sit alone and think. The church was closed. The school was locked. The only door that was open was the tavern door. That's the architecture of survival. Not the survival of the body. The survival of the spirit. The need to be seen, to be heard, to be in the presence of others. Even if the only place to doth that is a shebeen in a garage. There's a cycle that is almost a norm that adults never talk about. You work a job that pays just enough to survive. You go into credit before the month inspectors, the rent is high and the food is expensive and the transport to the city eats half your salary. You pay back what you owe, but then the next month comes and the cycle starts again. And again, and again. 20 years pass, you have nothing to show for it. No savings, no house, no business. No ideas left because the ideas got buried under the weight of surviving. The ideas are the first thing to go. The dreams, the plans, the things you whispered to yourself in the dark when you were young and didn't know how hard it would be, they get buried under the rent, under the credit, under the exhaustion of waking up at 4 am to catch a taxi to a job that doesn't see you, doesn't hear you, doesn't care if you live or die as long as the work gets done. The architecture is designed to bury the ideas. Your Uncle Rasta stayed up until 2 am watching YouTube videos, teaching himself how to fix a car, how to wire a house, how to repair a phone. He didn't learn those things in a classroom. There was no classroom for him. He learned them in the narrow space between the tavern on the corner and the house Wayo slept on a mattress. He taught himself because he had to. Because the architecture of that place, the narrow streets, the crowded houses, the taverns every 100 meters, it was designed to keep him small, and he refused to stay small. He didn't break the architecture. He built a door inside it. That's what the architect does, not fight the warehouse, learn to move through it, learn where the gaps are, and when you find a gap, plant something there. The taverns are not the problem. The taverns are a mirror. They reflect what is missing. Third places, libraries, community centers, parks, youth clubs, sports fields, coffee shops, churches with open doors. These are the spaces where people gather without having to spend money they don't have, where young people can learn, dream, connect, build. The taverns fill the void left by the absence of those spaces. They are not the cause of the problem, they are a symptom. The mirror shows us what was never built, or what was bulldozed and never replaced. I see young people now and I see them trapped in the same architecture. No parks, no libraries, no community centers. The only third place is the tavern. The only way to feel seen is to be loud, to perform, to spend money you don't have. They call it the credit cycle. I call it the architecture of survival. The architecture is not unchangeable. The streets can be rebuilt, the parks can be built, the libraries can open. The cycle can be broken. It starts with seeing the way the streets were laid out, seeing why the taverns are there, seeing the cycle for what it is, not a failure of the people, but a design that was built to hold them in place. And then with seeing comes choosing to learn instead of forgetting, choosing to save instead of spending, choosing toppled instead of surviving, choosing to hold the ideas even when the weight tries to bear them. Your Uncle Rasta chose not to let the architecture of constraint keep him hostage. Shows you will choose to, with Love Dad Letter 20. Good People, Wrong Timing Volume 2, The Outer World. My love, I want to tell you about a friend I lost. Not to a fight, not to betrayal, not to anything either of us did wrong, we just drifted. His name was Becky. We met at the warehouse. He was the one who taught me how to wrap a pallet properly, how to angle the forklift into a tight corner, how to read the clock without looking at it. He was older than me, quieter, steadier. We would take breaks together, sitting on the loading dock, our legs dangling over the edge. He would bring a flask of tea, sweet and hot. I would bring cigarettes even though I didn't smoke. They were for him. He talked about his daughter. I talked about my mother. We talked about nothing and everything. After work, we would walk to the taxi rank together. The sun setting over the warehouse roofs, the dust thick in the air, the sound of the last trucks rumbling out. I thought we would be friends for life, then I left the warehouse. I started the business with Melvin and Donovan. My world got bigger. I was in boardrooms making decisions, learning a new language of profit and loss and projections. Becky stayed at the warehouse, not because he couldn't leave. Because he didn't want to. He liked the routine. He liked the loading dock. He liked knowing exactly what each day would bring. First, we kept in touch. Phone calls, texts, the occasional Saturday afternoon at his place, drinking tea, catching up, but the calls became less frequent. The texts got shorter. The Saturdays became once a month, then once a season, then not at all. There was no fight, no betrayal, no moment I could point to and say, that's where it ended. It just faded. Like a photograph left in the sun, I remember the last time we sat on his stoop. The sun was low, the street was quiet. His daughter was playing in the yard, her laughter high and light. He poured me a cup of tea, the same flask, the same sweet, hot tea. We talked about the old days, the warehouse, the loading dock, the men we used to be. We didn't talk about the present. We didn't talk about the future. When I left, he walked me to my car. He put his hand on my shoulder, the same hand that had shown me how to wrap a pallet. Take care of yourself, Pride, he said. You too, I said. That was it. No hug, no promise to call, just two men who knew without saying it that this was the end of something. I drove away. The sun was in my eyes. My chest was tight, not from sadness, from knowing. I thought about Becky for weeks after that, wondering if I should call, wondering if I had felt him somehow. wondering if I should have tried harder, but I realized something. We didn't drift because we stopped caring. We drifted because we changed. The people we were at the warehouse, the young men drinking tea on the loading dock, they didn't exist anymore. I had become someone else. He had become someone else, not better, not worse, just different. And sometimes different is not a betrayal. It's just a divergence. That's the hardest lesson about the outer world, my love. You can love someone and still not build with them. You can respect them, honor them, share history with them, laugh with them, cry with them, trust them with your life. And still, when it comes to working together, building together, moving in the same direction, creating something that lasts, it doesn't work, not because anyone failed. Not because anyone is bad, not because anyone did anything wrong, because alignment is different from affection. Becky and I were aligned at the warehouse. We were not aligned after. His path went one way, mine went another. Neither path was wrong. They just didn't run together anymore. I think about your Uncle Paul. We are completely different characters. He's steady with money. I'm not. He's cautious. I'm not, but we are aligned. We want the same things. We see the same future. That's why we can still build together. Becky and I wanted different things. Not better or worse. Just different. You will have your own Becky. Friends you love who can't go where you're going. People you respect who see the world differently. Partnerships that made sense once but don't anymore. Relationships that were right for a season but wrong for a lifetime. When that happens, remember, it's not about who's right. It's about who's aligned. You can honor someone, love someone, wish them well with your whole heart and still know you can't build with them. Still know you can't go where they're going. Still know their path has split. That's not betrayal. That's clarity. Let them go with love. Don't make them wrong to make yourself feel better. Don't blame them to ease the pain. Don't rewrite history to justify the present. Just release and keep walking. The right alignment is out there. The people whose direction matches yours are waiting. The partnerships that will work are still to come. I wonder sometimes if Becky thinks about me. I'll never know. And then years later I found Melvin and Paul, people who wanted the same things, not better or worse, aligned. The grief of losing Becky did not disappear, but it became a door, not a wall. With Love Dad Letter 21, The Mastermind Volume 2, The Outer World My Love, We Should Go Fishing Sometime, Hartbeespoort, 800 kilometers from home. The place where my father took us fishing year after year, through the dark, through the cold, through the silence. I was 15, maybe 16. The sun was setting. The water was gold. The kind of gold see anywhere else. Not in paintings, not in photographs, not in dreams. It was the hour when the light bends and the world holds its breath. My brothers were with me. Sifo, Rasta, Dion. We had been fishing all day. Nothing, not abite. The rods sat in their stands motionless. The water was still. The only sound was Thewand moving through the grass and the occasional call of Hades in the distance. My father was on the bank, his rod in hand, coffee with whiskey steaming beside him. Hedda didn't say anything. He never did at this hour. He just watched. The way he always watched. Then something changed. The water rippled. The line moved. Not a nibble, a pull, hard, determined. Sifo saw it first. You've got something. I grabbed the rod. The weight was unbelievable, not like a fish, like a rock. Like the bottom off the dam had come unmoored, the line cut through the water. My arms ached, my hands burned, the rod bent so far I thought it would snap. Force it, my father said, his voice was calm. Let it tire itself out. I let the line run, then I pulled, ran, the fish fought, I fought, the sun dipped lower. The gold turned to orange, then to pink, then to grey. When I finally brought it in, my arms were shaking. My hands were raw. The fish was huge, a carp, maybe 6 kilos, its scales like polished coins, its gills pulsing, its eye wide and dark. My brothers gathered around. No one spoke. We just looked at it. The weight of it, the beauty of it. My father came over. He knelt beside the fish. He looked at it for a long time. Then he looked at me. That's a gift, he said. Not because it's big. Because you earned it. Taught me how to hold it, how to support its belly, how to keep my fingers away from its gills, how to lift it without hurting it. The fish was heavy. Its scales were slick. I could feel its sharp beating through its body. We took a photograph. I don't know where it is now. I recall posting it on Facebook, or perhaps it's lost, probably. But I still remember the weight. That fish fed us our entire 3-day stay. All the other catches were brought home. Jorgren Mother thought they were exaggerating when they told her my caught was bigger all thefish in our catch basket. That's what the mastermind is, my love. Not a business, not a partnership, not a strategy. It's the dam, the golden hour, the weight of the carp in your hands. The brothers standing around you, not speaking, just being there. Your Uncle Melvin taught me the word, but the word is not the thing. The thing is older than the word. It's the mattress we shared in the shack. The concrete floor cold beneath us. The breathing in the dark. The knowing that we were not alone. I think about that night in the shack. The wind rattling the walls. The dark so thick you couldn't see your hand. The rent was due. The money was not there. Dion was coughing in the corner. Rasta was whispering his mantra, take it easy, Rasta. Everything's gonna be alright. We didn't have a plan. We didn't have a strategy. We had each other, and that was enough. That's the mastermind, not people who think alike. People who think differently, who have different gifts, who see different paths, but who trust each other enough to walk together. Melvin was the brains. His mind moved faster than anyone's. He saw patterns I couldn't see. He solved problems before most people even noticed them. Donovan was the salesman. He could walk into a room and leave with orders. He could make anyone believe in anything, and me. I wasn't the genius. I wasn't the salesman, but I held them together. I translated Melvin's ideas into words Donovan could sell. I translated Donovan's promises into systems Melvin could trust. We were nothing alone. Together we built something that outlasted us. That's the mastermind, not the business. The brotherhood. The first time I held Akeisha, Melvin's daughter. She was tiny. Her hand wrapped around my pinky finger, she had a gentle grip. Her eyes were closed. She didn't know who I was. She didn't know that her father and I had built something together, had lost something together, had stayed together, but she was mine. Not by blood, by choice. That's what the mastermind does. It makes strangers into brothers. It makes brothers into fathers. It makes the weight of the fish into the weight of a child in your arms. Your Uncle Rasta taught me the mantra. Your Uncle Sledge taught me the sacrifice. Your Uncle Dion taught me the recovery. Your Uncle Melvin taught me the language. Your Uncle Paul taught me the steadiness. They are my mastermind, and I am theirs. Build your own mastermind. People who see you, who hold you, who make you better. Not because they agree with you, because they challenge you. Not because they need you, because they trust you. Find them, build with them, let them build with you, and when you catch your carp, when the line goes taut and the weight surprises you, they will be there, standing on the bank, not speaking, just being. That's the mastermind, that's the dam, that's the weight that holds. With love, Dad. Letter 22, Push or Pivot Volume 2, The Outer World. My love, there is a question I have wrestled with my whole life. Lain awake at night over. Asked myself in the dark, in the shack, in the moments when nothing was working, when do you keep pushing? And when do you change direction? The world loves the story of persistence, the hero who never gives up, the one who keeps going no matter what, the one who refuses to quit. We tell stories about them, celebrate them, hold them up as examples, but the world doesn't tell you that sometimes persistence is just pride wearing armor. Sometimes persistence is fear dressed up as courage. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is admit that the path is wrong and find another one. I learned this from a partnership that should have ended 2 years before it did, when I went into partnership with Brian. We started a small business together, not the mastermind with Melvin and Donovan, a different one earlier. He was brilliant. He had ideas that made my head spin. He talked fast, moved fast, made decisions fast. At first it was exciting. I felt like I was finally moving, finally building, finally doing something that mattered, but after a year something shifted. The fast decisions started to leave messes. The brilliant ideas began to conflict with each other. He would promise things to clients that we couldn't deliver. I would stay up late fixing problems, soothing the customers, filling the gaps. I told myself, he's just going through a phase. He'll settle down. The business needs him. I kept pushing. I worked harder. I covered for him. I didn't speak up because I was afraid of conflict, afraid of losing the partnership, afraid of starting over. 2 more years passed. The business didn't grow. It shrank. The clients left. The money dried up, and I was exhausted. Not from the work, from the pushing. From trying to keep something alive that had been dead for months. When they foreclosed our office in Germiston, that was my last straw. One night I sat in my car outside his house. The engine was off. The street was dark. I could see his light on through the window. I knew he was awake. I knew if I went in we would have the same conversation we'd had a dozen times. He would promise to change. I would believe him. Nothing would change. I didn't go in. I started the car. I drove home. That was the pivot. Not a fight, not a confrontation. Just a decision to stop pushing on something dead. The business ended. Not with a bang, with a whimper. We stopped calling. We stopped meeting. The silence grew. I mourned it, not the business, the friendship. The man I had admired. The man I had wanted to build with, but I learned something. Pushing is when you keep going because you don't know how to stop. Because you have invested too much to turn back, because you are afraid of what people will say, because you do not know who you are without the thing you are pushing. Pivoting is when you stop, when you look at the thing in front of you and ask, is this alive, or am I just afraid to let it die? That business was dead. It had been dead for a year. I was just afraid to admit it. Your Uncle Melvin taught me this in a different way, not with a business, with his own life. When the mastermind ended, the big business, the one with Donovan, Melvin didn't try to resurrect it. He didn't keep calling old clients. He didn't wake up at 4 a.m. checking emails that would never come. He mourned it and then he moved on. I asked him once, how did you let it go so easily? He looked at me for a long moment. It wasn't easy, he said, but the thing was dead. Pushing on something dead doesn't bring it back, it just keeps you from living. I thought about that the night I drove away from my partner's house. The thing was dead. He was the one who had kept it upright, pretending it was still breathing. There is a difference, my love, between resilience and recklessness, between persistence and paralysis. Resilience is pushing through the hard season when the thing is still alive, when the friendship still has a pulse, when the business still has a chance, when the dream still has Arison. Recklessness is pushing when the thing is already gone. When you are the only one still fighting, when everyone else has moved on, when the evidence is clear and you are choosing to ignore it. I see people do this all the time. Stay in jobs that kill them. Stay in relationships that drain them. Stay in cities that have nothing left to give them, not because they are strong, because they are afraid of the silence, afraid of starting over, afraid of admitting they were wrong. That's not strength, That's fear dressed as hope. You will have your own moments, my love. Times when you have to decide, is this a wall to push through? Or is this a sign to change direction? Is this a challenge to overcome? Or is this a message to stop? Is this a test of my persistence? Or is this a trap disguised as a test? The answer isn't always clear. The world will tell you to keep going, keep fighting, never give up. But the world doesn't know your path. The world doesn't feel your weight. The world doesn't know when you're carrying something that's killing you. Here, what I've learned, after all these years, after all these choices, after all these moments of pushing and pivoting. Resilience is for things that matter, things that are true, things that are yours, things that will still be worth it on the other side, things that align with who you are and where you're going. Adaptation is for things that aren't working, paths that lead nowhere, versions of yourself that you've outgrown, battles that aren't yours to fight, dreams that were never really yours. The hard part is knowing the difference, but you'll learn by trying, by failing, by getting up and trying again. By sometimes letting go and finding a new way. The answer isn't always clear. The world will tell you to keep going, keep fighting, never give up. But the world doesn't know your path. You'll learn by trying, by failing, by getting up and trying again. With love, Dad Letter 23, The Glue Volume 2. The outer world, my love. There's a kind of person the world doesn't celebrate, the one who holds things together, the one who makes sure everyone else can do their jobs, one who sees the gaps before they become problems, the one who notices what's missing and quietly fills it. The world celebrates the stars, the ones who shine, the ones who get the credit, the attention, the applause, but the glue, the ones who hold everything together, they're invisible until they're gone. I learned this from your Aunt Lynette when I was at boarding school. I missed home. Not the house, the kitchen, the smell of curry and cumin, the hiss of something frying, the sound of my mother humming. Lynette knew. She didn't ask, she just showed up. I would come back from class and there would be groceries on my bed. Bread, milk, peanut butter, the good kind, not the cheap one. A few rand notes tucked under the jar. She never said a word about it. When I thanked her, she waved her hand. Don't come this month, she told my mother. I'll handle it. She handled it, not because she had extra. She didn't. She had her own children, her own bills, her own weight, but she handled it anyway, quietly, without applause, without recognition. That's the glue, not the loud one, the steady one, the one who shows up when showing up's inconvenient. There was a man named Mr. Peters at the warehouse. He wasn't management. Wasn't their fastest loader. Wasn't anyone you'd notice in a crowd. Quiet, reliable, unremarkable if you were just passing through, but when something broke, a machine, a schedule, a conflict between workers, Mr. Peters was the one who fixed it. Quietly, without being asked, without taking credit, without making a fuss. When someone was struggling, he noticed. When something was about to go wrong, he saw it coming. When the place was falling apart, he held it together. After he retired, things fell apart for 6 months. Not because anyone was bad at their job, because the glue was gone. And no one had noticed he was the glue until nothing held together. I called him once just to say thank you. He laughed. I just did what needed doing, he said. Same as anyone, but it wasn't the same. It never is. I learned this about myself in the Mastermind. Melvin was the genius. Everyone could see it. His ideas, his speed, his ability to solve problems before most people even noticed them. When people talked about the company, they talked about Melvin. He was the star. Donovan was the salesman. He could walk into a room and leave with orders. He could make anyone believe in anything. When people talked about our success, they talked about Donovan. He was the star and me. No one talked about me. I wasn't the idea guy. I wasn't the closer. I wasn't the one anyone noticed. But I was the one people gravitated toward. The one who could take Melvin's ideas and Donovan's connections and make everyone see the same vision. The one who kept us moving in the same direction when we wanted to pull apart. The one who noticed when someone was struggling and quietly helped. The one who held the space where something could grow. I was the glue, and glue is invisible until it fails. There was a moment I'll never forget. We were in a difficult meeting. Things weren't going well. Melvin was overthinking. Donovan was getting frustrated. They were starting to talk past each other, both right in their own ways, both unable to hear the other. The tension was thick enough to cut. I didn't say much. That's not my way. I just listened, let them both speak, acknowledged what each was seeing without taking sides. And then quietly I said, I think you both want the same thing. You're just seeing different paths to it. The room shifted. Not because I was brilliant, not because I had a better idea, because I saw the gap and filled it, because I held the space where they could find each other again. After the meeting, Donovan pulled me aside. You do that thing, he said. You make us all feel like we're on the same team. I don't know how you do it, but don't stop. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know I was doing anything. I was just being myself. Being the person I've always been. That's when I started to understand. Not all important roles are visible. Some are only visible when they're missing. Some are only noticed in their absence. You might be the glue, my love. The one people gravitate toward, the one who sees what's missing, the one who holds things together when everyone else is pulling apart, the one who notices when someone's struggling, the one who fills gaps without being asked. If you are, here's what I need you to know. The world won't always see you. It might never see you. The loud ones will get the credit. The brilliant ones will get the attention. The ones who sell will get the applause. The ones who shine will get the spotlight, but the ones who hold, they're the reason anything works at all. Don't stop holding because no one notices. Don't become loud because quiet doesn't get praised. Don't trade your invisible role for visible emptiness. Don't let the world's blindness make you blind to your own worth. The glue holds everything together. That's enough. I learned that from Lynette, from Mr. Peters. From 1,000 moments where I wasn't the star, but I was the reason the show went on. You'll have your own moments, your own invisible work, your own quiet holding. Your own gaps to fill, your own spaces to hold, your own people to glue together. Do it anyway, the thing holds because of you. With Love Dad Letter 24, Raised by Pressure Volume 2, The Outer World My Love, there is something about you that I've never said out loud. Something I've carried quietly, watching you, marveling at who you're becoming. You were raised close to the edge, not because anyone failed you, not because anyone wanted that for you, not because we chose it, because life put us there. Circumstances put us there, the world put us there, and you, without choosing it, without asking for it, learn things that children in Safa places never learn. Think about the night you messaged me about the R62. You didn't panic, you didn't blame. You didn't make me feel small for not having it. You didn't cry or scream or make it about yourself. You said, it's fine. Times in that conversation you said it, it's fine, like you were protecting me from thought of my own not enough. Like you learned somehow that sometimes there's just not enough and that's not anyone's fault. Like you understood in your bones that love isn't about what you can provide. Most kids your age would have cried, would have screamed, would have made it about them. Would have added their disappointment to the weight I was already carrying. You'd been close enough to struggle your whole life to know that sometimes there's just not enough. And that's not anyone's fault. That's just life, that's not innocence, that's awareness, and awareness is expensive. You paid for it by living close to the edge. I paid the same price. Growing up in that house with my brothers, sharing one mattress, never having enough, never enough space, never enough food, never enough quiet, never enough of anything, learning early that the world doesn't owe you anything. Watching my mother fight cancer, watching her smile through it, watching her hold Atteridgeville when she had nothing left. Learning that love isn't about what you have, it's about who you are when you have nothing. Watching my father drive 800 kilometers through the dark just to sit by the water with us. Learning that presence is its own kind of provision. That closeness to struggle taught me things. It taught me that money isn't abstract, it's bread, it's light, it's dignity. It taught me that people aren't reliable just because they love you. You have to practice connection, maintain bridges, show up even when you don't need anything. It taught me that the world doesn't owe you anything, and that's not cruel, that's just true. I learned these things because I had to. Because struggle was close enough to touch. Your Uncle Sledge learned the same way. Leaving his daughter to go to Cape Town, walking into nothing, sending money back month after month. He learned what it costs to survive. He learned that sometimes the people whole of you can't be with you. He learned that you can be a good father from 1,400 kilometers away if you have to be. He learned that love doesn't always look the way you thought it would. He didn't choose those lessons. They chose him. Your grandmother learned them too, fighting cancer, fighting for her children's future, fighting to smile through it all. She learned that you can be ready to rest long before the world lets you. She learned that love means staying, even when staying costs everything. She learned that the people who matter most are the ones you leave something in, not something to. She didn't want those lessons, but she learned them. And because she learned them, I think about the shack again. The wind rattling the walls, the dark so thick you couldn't see your hand, the four of us on one mattress, the concrete floor cold beneath us that pressure could have crushed us. It didn't, it forged us. We learned to breathe in the small spaces, to sleep through the coughs and the whispers and the weight of someone else's arm across your chest. To wake up and do it again, day after day, because what else was there? Pressure does two things, it breaks, or it shapes. It broke some people I knew, men who lost their hope, their dreams, their will. They are still in the township, still on the mattress, still waiting for something that will never come, but it shaped others. It shaped your uncles. It shaped me. It shaped you. You'll meet people in your life who had easier paths, my love, people who never had to choose between bread and electricity. People who never heard "I don't have it" from a parent. People who never learned what struggle feels like up close. People whose lives were smoother, softer, safer. They'll seem softer, luckier, freer. They'll seem like they have something you don't. Envy them. The closeness to struggle, the one you didn't choose, the one that chose you. It gave you something they don't have. It gave you eyes that see, a heart that knows, a spine that doesn't break when pressure comes, a soul that can sit in the dark and not fall apart. It gave you the ability to say it's fine when it's not, and mean it as love. It gave you the wisdom to know that money isn't just money, that presence isn't just presence, that love isn't just words. You were raised by pressure, my love. And pressure, when it doesn't crush you, makes you something rare. It makes you real. With Love Dad Letter 25, The People Who Never Leave Volume 2, The Outer World, my love, there's a kind of relationship that doesn't fit neatly into words, that doesn't follow the rules, that doesn't make sense on paper. People who are still yours, even if you haven't spoken in years. Connections that don't require maintenance to remain real. Bonds that go quiet but never break. I want to tell you about these people, because you have them. You'll always have them. And no one ever explains how they work. Your cousin Akeisha, Melvin's daughter. She spent her first years in my arms while her parents travelled for work. I held her through her first rainfall. I remember the sound, that sudden drumming on the roof, the rush of water from nowhere. She was tiny, maybe one. Her eyes went wide. She looked up, confused, frightened. I held her. I walked her to the window. I showed her the water falling from the sky. She watched it with those big eyes, not understanding but trusting because she was in my arms. I haven't seen her in too long. Life happened, distance happened, the silence built, year-shave passed. She's grown now, someone I barely know in daily life. But if she called me tomorrow, if she needed something, anything, I would move her mountains. I would drop everything, I would be there. And I know in my bones that she'd do the same for me. That's not a relationship you maintain, that's a bond that was forged. And once something is forged, it doesn't unforge, it just waits. Think about Abigail. We call her Abby, she's my cousin. Your aunt, even though you've never met her yet. But for most of my childhood, I didn't know she was my cousin. I thought she was my blood sister. When Abby was young, her mother was still studying, still figuring things out, still finding her way. So my mother, your grandmother, took her in, raised her like her own, loved her like her own, and in our house, in our hearts, she was her own. She was just Abby, one of us, my sister. We grew up together, ate together, fought together, laughed together, shared secrets together. I never once thought to ask if we shared the same blood. It didn't matter. She was mine, I was hers. When the time came for her to go back to her mother, we cried, genuinely cried, not because we were losing a cousin, because we were losing a sister. The kind of loss you feel in your chest, not just in your head. She lives less than 20 kilometers from me now. Same location, just different sections. It cost me R14 to go see her. R14, less than a loaf of bread. It's been more than 3 years since I last saw her. 3 years, I tell myself things. She has her own family now, her own responsibilities, her own life. I don't want to impose, I don't want to come out of the blue and make things awkward. I don't want to be a burden, but that's not the truth. The truth is simpler and harder. I let the bridge go quiet. I stopped walking on it. And now it feels like there's too much silence to cross, but she's still mine. She'll always be mine. And one day I'll find the courage to walk across that bridge again. Think about the people from the warehouse. The ones I worked with years ago, shared meals with, struggled alongside. The ones who taught me things, learned from me, became part of my story. I don't see them anymore. Wouldn't call, we don't check in, we don't have a group chat. But if I ran into one of them tomorrow at a taxi rank, at a shop, anywhere, we wouldn't be strangers. We'd be something else. People who shared something real, even if it's in the past. People who were forged together, even if we've drifted. That's not a friendship you maintain. That's a history you carry. And history doesn't disappear just because you stop adding to it. Your grandmother understood this. People she loved, the ones she raised, the ones she fed and blessed and sent on their way, they're still hers. Even now, years after she passed, I feel her, I carry her. She's still part of me, not because we maintained anything. Not because we called every week or visited every holiday, because what we built doesn't need maintenance. It's structural, it holds on its own. The night she died, the hospital room was packed, not because we couldn't get there, because so many others had to say goodbye. People she hadn't seen in years. People she had at her table, blessed at her door, loved without condition. They came because she was still theirs, even after the silence, even after the distance. Even after death, that's the people who never leave. You'll have these people too, my love, friends who drift but never disappear. Family you don't see but still feel. Connections that got quiet but don't break. Bonds that don't make sense to anyone who wasn't there when they were forged. In a world that tells you relationships need constant attention to survive, these bonds will confuse you. You'll wonder if you're failing them. If the silence means they're gone. If the distance means they're no longer yours, they're not. Some relationships don't end, they just go quiet. And quiet isn't the same as empty. The people who were forged into you by time, by struggle, by love, by shared moments that can't be undone, they never really leave. They wait, in the background, in the bones. In the part of you that knows, without proof, that's still yours. And when the moment comes, when you need them or they need you, the quiet will break. And it will feel like no time passed at all, because it didn't. Not really. With love, Dad. Letter 26, The Reinvention of Fatherhood. Volume 2, The Outer World, my love. There is a photograph I keep in my mind. Not in a frame, not on my phone. Just in my mind, I am sitting on the edge of your bed. You are 7 years old. Your hair is wet from the bath. You are holding a book, a school book, homework. You don't understand the math. The numbers are swimming on the page. Your lip is trembling. I look at the problem. I don't understand it either. I was never good at this kind of math. That kind with letters and numbers mixed together, the kind that expects you to find X when X is hiding. The voice says, you should know this, you're the father. You're supposed to have thinswas. I take a breath, I put my hand on the page. I don't know this one either, I say, but we can figure it out together. You look at me not with disappointment, with something else. Relief, we figure it out, slowly, wrong turns, erased answers, a few frustrated sighs, but we get there. When you close the book, you lean your head against my arm. Thanks, Dad, for having the answer, for staying. That's the reinvention of fatherhood, my love, not having the answers. Staying long in auto find them together. My father didn't do homework with me. He was driving trucks. He was gone for weeks. When he came home, he sat by the water. He waited. He didn't help with math. He helped with silence. That was his gift. Not presence in the small moments. Presence in the big ones. The fishing trips, the question, what do you need? The space he carved out of the dark for us to speak. He was a good father, but he was not a present father. Not in the way the world measures presence. Not in homework and school plays and bedtime stories. He was present in the ways he could be. And I learned to be present in the ways I can be. Your mother's father was different. He was there in the house, at the table, every night. Both was silent, not the good silence, the heavy silence. The silence of a man who didn't know how to say I love you except by providing. He worked. He paid the bills. He kept the roof. That was his language, and it was enough, but it was not everything. When I became a father, I didn't know what kind of father I would be. I had two models, my father who was absent but present in the spaces he made, and her father who was present but absent in the words he never spoke. I had to invent my own. The night you needed R62, I couldn't provide, I couldn't pay, I couldn't be the father who writes the check and solves the problem, but I could stay, I could tell the truth, I could say I don't have it and not disappear. That was the reinvention, not the money. The staying, I learned that from you. When you fell off your bike, I stayed. I didn't scoop you up, I stayed, I watched you find your strength. That was the moment I became the father I am now, not the father who fixes. The father who stays. There is a word for this in the research. They call it social fathering. Men who are not biological fathers but who step into the role. Uncles, grandfathers, neighbors, teachers. I have been a social father to many children. Brittany, Akeisha, your friends who call me Malum and mean safe place. I didn't plan it, I just stayed, I showed up, I listened. I held space. That's the reinvention, not blood. Presence. Sledge left his daughter to go to Cape Town. He wasn't there for her first steps. He wasn't there for her first words, but he sent money, he called. He stayed in the ways he could. He was a good father, not a perfect one. A real one. That's what I want you to know about me. I am not perfect. I have missed birthdays. I have been late. I have said the wrong thing. I have frozen when I should have spoken, but I have stayed. I have not disappeared. I have not let my shame become my absence. You will have your own reinvention, my love. You will be a different kind of parent than Ian. You will take what worked and leave what didn't. You will invent yourself in the doing, not in the planning. That's the gift of this generation. You don't have to be your father. You don't have to be your mother. You can be someone new, but don't throw away the old. My father gave me the water, the silence, the space. Your mother's father gave her the roof, the table, the provision. I took both. I am both. And you will take what you need and build what you must. That's the reinvention of fatherhood, my love. Not a blueprint, a practice, not a role. A relationship. You stay, you show up. You say I don't know when you do know. You say I'm sorry when you're wrong. You say I love you with your presence, not just your words. That's the father I am becoming. That's the father you will become to your children, to your friends, to the people who need a safe place, not perfect. Present. With love, Dad. Letter 27. The Tyranny of Anything, Volume 2. The Outer World, my love. When you were young, people asked you, what do you want to be when you grow up? They asked it with such hope, such openness. Anything, they said, you can be anything. I said it too, I meant it. The world had changed. Doors that were locked for me were open for you. You could be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, a pilot. You could be anything. I believed it. I still believe it, but I have learned something since then. Something I didn't know when I said those words. There is a weight to anything. A quiet grief that no one names. We told you you could be anything. We did not teach you how to become something. I think about Thabo, the young man from the call center who froze on the call, who patience rescued. He had been told he could be anything. He had a degree in it. He had certificates, skills, ambition, but he didn't know how to become something. He knew how to apply for jobs. He knew how to interview. He knew how to wait. He didn't know how to build, how to start with nothing, how to make a door when the walls were blank. He was not alone. I see young people everywhere who have been told they can be anything. They have degrees, diplomas, certificates. They have dreams, plans, visions. They do not have scaffolding. They do not have a path. They have infinite possibility and no map. An infinite possibility without a map is not freedom. It's paralysis. I learned this from a young woman named Pelsa. She was 18. She had just finished high school. She had excellent grades. She had been accepted to 3 universities. She had no idea what to choose. She came to me desperate, her hands shaking, her eyes red from crying. Everyone says I can be anything, she said, but they don't tell me how to pick one. What if I pick wrong? What if I waste my life? I didn't have an answer. I still don't. I told her, you're not choosing a life sentence. You're choosing a next step. She nodded. But I could see that the weight hadn't lifted. The weight of anything is not lifted by a single sentence. She picked one. She went to university. She did well, but she still wonders. She still carries the quiet fear that she chose wrong. That's the tyranny of anything, not the absence of choice, the weight of it. In the village, it looked different. Young people grew up without scaffolding, but they also grew up without too many choices. You were a farmer if your father was a farmer. You were a teacher if the community needed a teacher. You were not asked to decide your entire future at 18. The choices were fewer. The path was clearer. The weight was lighter, not better, not worse, just different. Now we have told you you can be anything, and we have not given you the tools to choose. We have not told you that choosing one thing means losing the others. We have not told you that the grief of the road not taken is real. We have not told you that anything is not a premise. It is a question, and you have to answer it yourself. I remember standing at the gate of my own life years ago, trying to decide what to do with curriculum. I had written it. It was good, but I didn't know what to do with it. Publish it, sell it, give it away. Keep it in the drawer, the voice said. You can do anything. You can be anything. That voice was not helpful, because anything is not a plan. Anything is a void. What helped was breaking it down. One step, one email, one school, one conversation. I stopped trying to be anything. I just tried to do something. That's what I want you to understand, my love. Anything is not a door, it's a horizon. You cannot walk to the horizon. You can only take the next step. The young people I see who are paralyzed, they are not weak. They are not lazy. They are overwhelmed. They have been told they can be anything, but they have not been shown how to become something. The becoming is the work. The choosing is the work. The letting go of all the other selves you could have been, that is the work. Pelsa will always wonder about the road not taken. That's not failure, that's being human. Thabo will always wonder if he should have studied something else. That's not regret, that's the cost of choice. The tyranny of anything is that it hides the cost. It pretends you can have it all. You cannot. Every yes is a no. Every choice is a loss, not a failure. A loss, and loss is not something to fix. It's something to carry. So here is what I want you to know. You can be anything. That is still true, but being anything is not the goal. Being something, becoming someone, that is the goal. And becoming someone means choosing. And choosing means losing. And losing means grieving. The grief is not a sign that you chose wrong. It's a sign that you chose at all. So choose, not once, over and over, every day. And when you grieve the roads not taken, let grief be there. Let it teach you. Let it remind you that you are alive. With love, Dad. Letter 28. The Body Remembers Volume 2. The Outer World, my love. I was 19. Just started working. Small job, paid every 2 weeks. Not much money, but for a kid fresh out of high school with no responsibilities, it felt like enough. More enough. It felt like freedom. The notes were warm in my pocket. Mine, earned. The first time money felt like it actually belonged to me, not just something given or borrowed or hoped for. One payday I was walking back from the shops, excited, pocket full of 2 weeks' work. The world felt good. The sun felt right. Everything was possible, and a guy stops me, just appears. Like they always do. Hey brother, let me show ya something. Offers to sell me a phone, half the price it should be. Too good to be true. My brain knew it, something in my gut knew it. But my eyes saw that phone and wanted it. Everything inside me said, this is wrong, walk away, keep walking, don't even look back. But the phone looked perfect. The price felt like luck, and I wanted it. I bought it, got home, opened the box. It wasn't the phone he'd shown me. He'd swapped it somehow, somewhere in the handoff. A magician's trick, sleight of hand. My 2 weeks' wages gone for a box of nothing. For a piece of plastic that looked like a phone but wasn't. I felt like a small child. Lost, confused. A storm of emotions I couldn't name. The shame, hot in my face, feeling silly. How could I let somebody take me off my mind like that? How could I be so stupid, so eager, so desperate for something shiny? Regret, heavy in my chest. The kind that sits there and won't move. Then stress. Real stress, because that was my whole week's wages. Gone. 2 weeks off work, 2 weeks of getting up early, standing in that warehouse doing what I was told. For nothing, I tried to find somebody to blame. Looked everywhere. The guy who sold it. The friend how wasn't there. The universe for putting me in that spot, but I couldn't. There was no one else. It was all on me. All of it. My brother Sledge, your uncle Sledge, had a ball with me when he found out. He went on and on, packing around the room, waving his hands. Yeah, you must wake up. Wake up, Baba, this is Joburg. They don't play. Look now, they sold you a brick for 800 Baba. He wasn't just angry, he was disappointed. The kind of disappointed that hurts more than anger. Because back then 800 Rand was a lot of money. That was my 2 weeks' wages. That was food, that was rent, that was everything. He sounded like someone who'd been through this himself. Someone who knew the lesson and hated watching me learn it the same way. That night, lying awake, staring at the ceiling, I learned, your body tells you things before your mind catches up. The tight chest, the flicker of doubt, the voice that says too good to be true. That's not weakness, that's not fear, that's your dashboard. And if you ignore it long enough, you'll keep buying boxes of nothing. Imagine you're driving a car and a little red light pops up on the dashboard. The check engine light. You have 2 choices. You can get out a piece of black tape, cover the light, and keep driving. Or you can pull over and look under the hood. Covering the light is easier. It takes 2 seconds. It lets you ignore the problem for a few more miles. You can pretend everything's fine. You can keep going, keep moving, keep living like nothing's wrong. But eventually the car will break down, on the side of the highway, in the pouring rain, with no one coming to help. Your feelings are your check engine lights. The body keeps score, you know this already. You felt it, the tight chest before a test. The hollow stomach after a fight with a friend. The heat in your face when a teacher calls on you and you don't know the answer. The body remembers what the mind tries to forget. You remember the scorpion, the snake, the freeze. The body doesn't care about logic. It cares about survival. There is a night I carry in my bones. Not the R62 night. Not the gun on Mandela Bridge. A different night, a quiet night. I was sitting on the edge of the bed. The room was dark. Your mother was asleep. I had just finished paying the bills, the ones I could pay. The ones I couldn't pay were in a pile on the desk. I looked at my hands. They were still, not relaxed, still. Like they were waiting for something. My chest was tight, not from fear, from holding everything together for so long that the muscles had forgotten how to let go. I remembered my father's hands, the way they held the fishing rod, the way they poured coffee with whiskey, the way they never trembled, even when the water was rough and the fish was heavy and the night was cold. I wondered if his chest was tight too. I never asked. The body remembers the cold of the concrete floor in the shack. The way the cold seeped up through the mattress, through the blanket, through my skin, into my bones. I thought it was just the weather. It was the weight of not enough. The weight of knowing that they ain't was due and the money wasn't there. The body remembers that cold. Even now in a warm room I can feel it. A phantom chill. Amory in my marrow. Your body will remember too. The heat of embarrassment. The cold of rejection. The ache of staying too long in a room where you don't belong. That's not weakness. That's testimony. Your body is a witness to everything you've survived. I think about the weight of the carp in my hands, the slick scales, the pulse of its gills, their heart beating through its body. My body remembers that weight, not as a number, 6 kilos, 7, I don't know, as a feeling, the strain in my arms, the burn in my palms, the steady pull of something alive. That weight taught me something that no book could. It taught me that you cannot force a living thing. You have to let it tire itself out. You have to wait. You have to hold. Your body knows this. When you are angry, your jaw clenches. When you are afraid, your breath shortens. When you are tired, your shoulders drop. Your body is not your enemy. It is your dashboard. It is telling you something. Are you listening? There is a practice I have learned, not from a book, from the dam, from the scorpion. From the empty night, when a feeling rises, I stop. I close my eyes. I ask, where is this in my body? Not what is this feeling? Not why is this happening? Just where? The chest, the stomach, the jaw, the hands. Once I find it, I breathe into it. Not to make it go away, to acknowledge it, to say, I see you, you are here, you are not the whole story. The body relaxes. Not because the problem is solved, because the body has been heard. Your body will speak to you, my love. Learn to listen, not to fix, to honor. I think about the women in the Stockfell. The way they touched each other's hands when Somion was grieving. The way they held each other's shoulders. The way their bodies said what their mouths could not. They didn't talk about the body, they just used it, to hold, to comfort, to remind each other that they were not alone. Your grandmother did this too. The way she would hold my face in her hands. The way she would look at me, not saying anything, just being there. Her hands were warm, her fingers were rough, but her touch said, I am here. You are not alone. That is the body's language, older than words, truer than promises. You will forget this, you will get lost in your head. You will try to think your way out of pain, to reason your way out of grief. When that happens, come back to the body. Put your hand on your chest, feel your breath, feel the weight of your own hand. Your body is not the problem. It is the solution, not because it will fix anything, because it will remind you that you are still here, still breathing, still capable of being held. The body remembers. Let it. With loved ad end of volume TWABACK Matter the Navigator's Lens, a quick reference to the ways of seeing you built in this volume. Keep it close. Use it when the world gets loud. Mirrors and windows. Mirrors reflect your own stuff back at you. Windows let you see through to something real. Learn to tell the difference. Then become a window, the internalized official, the ghost of the passbook. The voice that tells you to wait for permission, to stay in your lane, to shrink so you fit. That voice is not yours. You are the one who signs the book now. Seriti Isithanzi. The weight you cast before you enter a room. Presence. Shadow. Your name travels first. Build a shadow that opens doors. You karma the cord of relatedness. You are not an individual. You are not in a cord that stretches back to ancestors and forward to children not yet born. The cord holds you. And you feed the cord. Spatial architecture. The VNA. The world is a warehouse with narrow aisles. The margins are small. The constraints were designed. Learn to move through them. Then outgrow the warehouse. The mask, not the enemy. Forgetting it's a mask is the enemy. Wear it when you need to, take it off when you can. The wrong room being undervalued doesn't mean you lack value. It means you're in the wrong room. Keep your value. Find another door. The mastermind, not people who think alike. People who think differently and trust each other enough to let those differences work. Find your people, build with them, hold the space, push or pivot. Pushing is fear dressed as hope. Pivoting is hope dressed as courage. Know the difference. 10 What is alive? Let the dead thing die. The glue, invisible until it fails. The thing holds because of you. Don't trade your invisible role for visible emptiness. Raised by pressure, struggle shapes you. The edge of poverty teaches you what comfort never can. Pressure, when it doesn't crush you, makes you real. The people who never leave. Some bonds don't need maintenance. They were forged, they wait. The bridge must still be walked. Don't let the silence become a wall. Your own scorecard. The world's scorecard has no finish line. Build your own. Measure be what matters. The Isavivin, adding your stones. Volume 2. In our tradition, travelers added a stone to a pile, an Isavivin, for luck and for the safety of those coming after. Each time you practice seeing clearly, you add a stone. You build a monument, not for yourself, for the ones who come after. This week, when someone reacts to you in a way that lands heavy, pause. Ask, is this a mirror or a window? Then write down one moment you recognized a window. Fold it. Add it to your stone pile. When you walk into a room where you don't know the language, try one word, Jumela Indizade Kensa. Kanani, then write down what happened, fold it, add it to your stone pile when you carry the weight of everyone else, pause. Ask who holds me, then reach out to that person. Write down what you said, fold it, add it to your stone pile when you feel the pull of comparison, stop. Ask, what is the next step on my track right now, then take it. Write down one thing you did today that was yours alone, fold it, add it to your stone pile, your action is presence. Your presence is legacy. Questions for the Trail, Volume 2 for when you are ready. Let the questions find you, do not force them. 1. Who has been a window for you? What did they help you see? 2. When have you outgrown a room? What did you leave behind? What did you carry forwards? 3. What name travels before you? What do you want it to say? 4. Who leans on you? Who holds you? 5. What dead thing are you still pushing? What would happen if you let it go? 6. Who is the glue in your life? When have you been the glue? 7. What has pressure taught you that comfort never could? 8. Who are the people who never leave, even when the silence grows? 9. What currency do you carry that the world does count? 10. What remains of you already? What do you want to remain? Acknowledgements, Volume 2. This book exists because of a village, a full reckoning with the inheritance, a monument built stone by stone, generation by generation, hand by hand, to Maya and Brittany. You were the question I never knew I was asking. You are themes where I will spend my life earning. The way you do the math, the way you say it's fine when it is, the way you see what's missing. You taught me what this was really about. To their mother, you carried us through things I still do not know how to name. The R30 night, the way you looked at me and didn't look away. You built me. You dressed the man I was becoming before I could see him. To my mother, Sue, you taught me what love looks like in a body. You smiled through cancer. You named your son Gift and meant it. I still feel you carrying me. Every day. To my father, you drove 800 kilometers through the dark to take your boys fishing. You sat by the water and waited for us to speak. Your coffee with whiskey still warms my hands. To my brothers Sifo, Rasta, Dion, Melvin, Paul, you shared the mattress. You shared the weight. You taught me that brotherhood is not blood. It is showing up. To my sisters, Lynette and Samantha, you showed up when it mattered. Lynette, the groceries, the peanut butter, the way you told Mom, don't come this month, I'll handle it. Samantha, the way you carry her face, the way you taught Maya to swim, the way you corrected me with love. This book is yours too. To Moses, you waited in the receiving bay. You taught me to wipe the glass. To Mabula, you asked for help and let me be a window. To Takadzwa, you sent R300 to a stranger and showed me the world still holds people woke without performing. To Nomusa, you warned me about the empty well. I hear you now. To Mr. Peters, you were the glue. I hope someone told you. Gogo Maria and the women of the Saturday Club, you taught me that discipline is not individual. It is collective. To Auntie Grace, Uncle Solly, the Mohammed family, Precious, the corner of Hope and Maine. You taught me that community is circulation. To everyone who has ever sat on a curb alone waiting to be seen, this is yours. And to you, the reader, thank you for trusting these letters with your own heart. May you learn to tell the difference between mirrors and windows. May you find your corner. May you add your stones to the monument. May you become a window for someone else. That was always the point. Pride D. Mpofu, Johannesburg, 2026. About the author. Pride D. Mpofu is a foreign national father raising a South African daughter. He knows what it means to ask for permission to provide, permission to be a parent, to carry papers that say he exists, and to still show up every day. He grew up on a mattress with 4 brothers, in a shack where the wind rattled the walls and dark was thick enough to hold. He learned to make room before being asked. He learned that belonging is not about what you own, it is about who you hold. His father was a fisherman. At 15, Pride pulled a 6 kg carp out of Hartbeespoort Dam, not with strength, with patience, with the stillness that comes when you stop trying to force the water to give up what it holds. He has worked as a V&A driver, a warehouse collections dispatcher, a maintenance technician, a call center agent, a quality assurance coach, and a co-founder and head of operations of Enhanced Capital Markets, where he built an entire operational infrastructure from the ground up. He has stood in the cold at 4 a.m. counting boxes. He has sat in a shack at midnight, writing words no one would read. He has watched fire approach everything he loved, and he has held people he could not save. He is the father of 2 daughters, Maya and Brittany. He is the creator of the Applied Commerce Curriculum for Grades 8-12, the Maya Life Design Framework TM, and the author of the Letters Just For You, a Dompas upgraded trilogy. He still makes coffee with whiskey on cold nights and thinks of his father. He still talks to strangers in salons and barbershops because one people, one love. He lives in Johannesburg, where he is probably at this very moment in the middle of a 3-hour conversation with someone he just met. The Maya pathway, the work does not end here. It continues. Stage 1, the architect, the inner world, who you are when no one is watching. The foundation. Stage 2, the outer world, the navigation. How to move through relationships, influence, and community without losing yourself. Stage 3, the long view, the legacy, what outlasts, the tree you plant that you will never sit under, the shade you give without knowing, the monument that holds the stones. You are the architect, you are the navigator, you are the ancestor, not someday, now. Also by Pride D. Mpofu, Letters Just For You, a Dompas upgrade. Stage 1, the architect. Stage 2, the outer world. Stage 3, The Long View Applied Commerce, a complete mindset and financial philosophy curriculum for grades 8-12, built on the Maya Life Design Framework TM, the mattress architecture. A Compass for the Naked Truth, a practical guide for anyone standing between two lives, built on the 6 compass points of the Maya Life Design Framework TM, something to carry with you. The inner world was the house you built when no one was watching. The outer world was the door you walked through when the house was ready. The long view is the tree you plant when you realize the house was never meant to be your final home. You carry the rhythm now. Wound, lens, application, inheritance, namming. You carry the mattress, you carry the water, you carry the corner, you carry the chord. You carry the chorus, the voices that speak through me, through all of us, through the generations that came before and the ones that will come after. You are the architect. You are the navigator. You are the ancestor, not someday. Now the door is open, walk through it. The water is waiting. Come sit by the water, it is still there. It is always there. End of Volume 2, The Outer World.